we go. Welcome back to a podcast about movies. I am Jacob Barber, host, joined as always by my co-host Austin. How words are hard sometimes. Austin, how's it going?
Hey, I am indeed here with you on a podcast about movies, Mr. Jacob Barber. So yeah, the words can be a little difficult depending on what time of day, especially if you believe Mr. Jacob just got off work. I got off work a little while ago, had a very long day, very busy day, but we're always down to talk about movies. That's why it's called a podcast about movies. And you came up with a fine little topic here, sir, that'll make for some interesting discussions. Why don't you tell them all about it, Mr. Barber?
Yes, today we are going to be talking about our favorite movie from every year that we have been alive. So every year
Hey.
up until 2021, because 2022 just started, and
Hmm.
my favorite thing that I've seen it was the Harry Potter reunion special. So I mean, there's there's a
Well,
lot more
and if
coming
I
out.
apparently the new Scream is pretty good from what I'm hearing, although I haven't seen it as of this recording, so I can't
Okay,
put it on my favorite list yet.
right.
So yeah, new movies is haven't seen much new yet. I would put maybe Cobra Kai season 4 would be my. Oh, is that not a movie? Sorry, that would be my favorite thing so far this year.
There we go. So yeah, no, we'll go there. Austin has a few years on me, so um, once we get to my birth year, then I will be jumping in. But
Sounds good.
until then, Austin has the floor.
And I'll talk about my strategy for where I went to in putting this list together when Jacob brought up the topic to me. So obviously it's going to be leaning more towards our personal favorites rather than what I think is like the best movie that came out that year, because you could
Hmm.
take that approach to what you think is like the best movie. I went with the approach of like, the old cliche of like, I got to grab a movie from each of these years and I can only watch that movie or whatever's the
Oh, okay.
most rewatchable. Like what's the most rewatchable movie for me from that year personally that like I could just put on over and over. I could put all these all in a tote bag and like these are the only ones I can watch for like a year. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, okay.
I went with that kind of tactic. So just to set the stage of like rewatchability for me is I've always talked about how that's big for me in my top
Right.
64, things like that. Rewatchability is always very high. So I have odd movies here and there, but you'll kind of see where I'm going.
Okay.
But
Well,
that's the approach I took. I've got one for each year, and then a few here and there, maybe a dozen or so. I've got a very very strong honorable mention that just got nudged out, so I'll just mention those. But what approach did you take looking at this?
I it's pretty much the same, with the exception of 1 year. There's a 1 year where I chose a movie that I think it just it hit me so much that I wanted to include it. I don't know if it's got that rewatchability as much as like the rest of my list,
Mm-hmm.
but and just also like movies that like mean something to me personally. So they might
Mm-hmm.
not like crack anyone's top 10 of that year, but for me personally, like there's just a connection with that movie. So
Gotcha.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the way I went. I have a runner up for each year too. So yeah, no, this was a fun list to put together. And yeah, so why don't you go ahead and hit us
All right.
once we
With
hit
my first
90, I'll
couple,
jump in.
yeah, because Jacob wasn't even thought about being born yet until 1990. So, yeah, we'll have to get to him when we get to him. But I was born in 1986, and appropriately enough, this was way easy for me to come up with my 1986 movie because it just
Yeah.
happens to coincide, as destiny would have it, with my favorite film of all time, which is Aliens. And anybody who knows me knows Aliens is my favorite film. And so this was an easy pick for 86. It was meant to be with me. Aliens from 1986, not only my birth year, but my favorite movie to come out that year. It's just a movie that's so special to me. It just has everything I could want in a movie. Just phenomenal characters, phenomenal set pieces, sci-fi action. Just some heart, thrown in there with the relationship between, Ripley and Newt. Just everything you could want. Some kick-ass fight scenes and climaxes and amazing practical effects, which is still why the movie holds up. Me, I'm big on
Mhm.
practical effects. I mean, when you're at near the end of that movie and you see a real Queen xenomorph creature fighting Ripley in this giant like loader mech suit thing, like, and it's real. There's no CGI. That's why it holds up, because it's right there in front of you with amazing special effects artists like Stan Winston and puppeteers and people putting it together. That's why it holds up. That's why it's so awesome, and that's why it's my favorite of '86. Yeah, I love Aliens so much.
Yeah, great choice. I didn't even like. I knew Aliens was your favorite, and I knew Aliens came out in '86, but I never put those two together until like I proposed the top. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. That's cool. Yeah,
yeah.
Aliens is great.
So
It's a great. I love the franchise too because like it does horror so well in the first one, and then it does
mhm.
sci-fi like perfectly in the second one.
Oh yeah. No, it's
It's a
like sci-fi
great franchise.
action perfectly. Yeah, with still a few horror moments kind of sprinkled here
Mhm.
and there, but it definitely amps it up. But it takes a whole different tactic and approach, which is why it not only distinguishes itself from Alien, to where like people who say they like Alien more than Aliens or Alien, I don't care. Like I see each
Right.
perspective, and I'm totally cool with it because they each are so unique and so much fun. It's like a perfect sequel, and that they keep with the mythology, but they do something different, so it's not a clone. It's just wonderful. So I've talked about Aliens enough all over the
Oh
place.
yeah.
I don't need to talk about it forever, but
Right.
but it's a nice segue you talking about a franchise, because a franchise that it's kind of linked to is my favorite of '87, which is Predator,
Okay.
which would make sense for '87 because. Of course, and speaking of Aliens and Predator, our next are coming up in 2 weeks on Let's Rank Stuff with me and Henry Confidential. We're going to be doing AVP for rankings. So we're going to be
No.
ranking Alien and Predator movies together as one. So
Okay.
like a whole thing to make it like 13 movies or something. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways,
Spoiler
yeah.
on number one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I won't have any hot takes for number one. Yeah, that'll be. But I might have some hot takes for my next couple ones. But yeah, Predator is my '87 with a close honorable mention going to RoboCop because I
Oh,
love
okay.
RoboCop to
Yeah.
death as well. But if I had to pick, I'd go with Predator. Just another great sci-fi action, just super fun film that starts out as this run and gun team guerrilla warfare, with these group of mercenaries, but like it kind of almost gets stripped down to a bare bones thing of just Arnold going back to basics against the Predator, like having no guns, no technology, just getting back to like caveman warfare, which is like primal warfare, which is what I love. By the end, it's like they're all these guys with these guns and this training and everything, and he's just got to get back to his bare bones like guerrilla warfare training, which he has, and he has to kind of bring it back out. Like, yeah, just again another Stan Winston creation, with the Predator, and it
Mhm.
holds up, man. When he pulls off the mask, and it's this creature with this crazy mouth and these, this nutty, design. Like it's one of the most unique things ever. And again, a real creature, a real big giant 7-foot dude in a suit, and that's why it holds up. It's not some CGI thing he's fighting. It's right there. You can feel it, and it's again what I love about movies and things like that is just amazing stuff all around. So yeah, Predator is my '87. I know you enjoy the Predator as well.
I do. I really enjoy
Yeah,
Predator. I've only seen it once. I need to revisit it. I've been trying to
it's
watch a
great.
lot of movies that I've missed, so I haven't done a lot of rewatches. But that's one that's definitely high up on. Yeah, I want to
Mhm.
rewatch it because it was great. It's a great action movie, and yeah, just
And
like
it's
you said,
not
the
my pick
practical.
for 19 it's not my pick for 1990, but I'm really big on Predator 2, as far as like it's not on the same sophisticated level as Predator, but if you just want to watch a bonkers 90s action movie like that's just batshit crazy, I highly recommend Predator 2. It's super super fun. If you're in the mood for just a coked out crazy ride, like it's there. It's everything you could
Yeah.
want. So but yeah, anyways, moving on to 1988, I went with what would become my favorite movie as of tournament fights. That would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it actually would be my one for '88, with a close uh, honorable mention coming into the Blob remake from 1988,
Oh,
that I
okay.
love a lot as well. But yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I mean, what's there to say? It's again another special effects wonder that holds up with the seamless effects of the live action and animation coming together that we've still never matched to this day. Space Jam doesn't do it Cool World doesn't do it. Looney Tunes Back in Action doesn't do it. None of them have done to this day what they did with that movie. Again, because there's no digital effects. It's all hand-drawn animation mixed with the live action. Bob Hoskins' commitment to the role is on the screen. You can feel it, and you can watch the movie literally from his perspective. And when you realize there's nothing there with him when he's doing these scenes, and he's throwing himself across these rooms, and there's things jumping out all over the place, and he's got a thing of handcuffs just kind of dangling in the air, and all this, and it blows your mind when you go and watch this movie and really analyze it and study it, and it's pretty crazy. With a great story to boot, a great neo-noir story at the heart of it. So yeah, I love Roger Rabbit to pieces as well.
Yeah, it's a great choice. I recently rewatched it for the first time in I don't know how long, and it cracked my top. It cracked my top 50. Like,
yeah, it's awesome.
If I was alive in '88, it would have been my pick. It's great.
I wore out a VHS tape of it when I was a kid that I still have signed by Charles Fleischer to this day, and who voiced the Roger Rabbit. And it's just a masterpiece of cinema. It's phenomenal, and it's always hovering in around my top 10. Like it'll pretty much be there forever. Yeah, and it's great.
And when you talk about best villains, like it's a shame that Christopher Lloyd doesn't get talked about more. Like
because he's a lot of fun as Judge Doom. He has a commitment to the role where he never blinks on screen, which is crazy. And then when you know the twist of him having like these fake eyeballs, like it all makes sense, and it comes together when you go back and look on it, and it's just super fun. And yeah, he's always great, like especially like 80s and early 90s, like Christopher Lloyd, like he was one of the best character actors around. Like he did some amazing work, and it's a shame he can't physically do that kind of work anymore because he's much older now, and he's a little slower, but he's still working. But yeah, when he passes away, and I'm not wishing ill on him, but when he passes away, that's going to hurt because Back to the Future, Roger Rabbit, Addams Family, I mean, you name it, like he did some fantastic stuff, he really did. So yeah, he's really great. So going on to 1989, we're almost Jacob's thinking about being born soon. He's hovering around somewhere. He's coming, but pun intended, waka waka. Anyways, 1989. This is a tough choice. I went with the 89 Tim Burton Batman, which again holds a very special place for me. My parents bought me a Batman VHS set that had like all the four, Batman Returns, all the way up to Batman and Robin. I wore those tapes out mercilessly when I was a kid. And yeah, like I was a huge Batman fan, and I finally got to see this movie in a theater probably 3 or 4 years ago, like on a repertory screening, just like some anniversary screening. And boy, did I just have a blast. I just had such a fun, like, there's nothing like when that movie kicks into high gear and that Danny Elfman score kicks on, dun, 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 and it's just like the best Batman theme we've ever had. It's some of the greatest designs. Like I still think that Batmobile is the greatest, like as far as just being a Batmobile. Like that's what I picture in my head. When you think of a Batmobile, that's it, man. That's a Batmobile. And I love Michael Keaton and what he does with it, and how he just completely blew everybody away from Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice and became like a great Batman. It's just got such a sense of fun to it. And of course, Jack Nicholson is uber magnetic and fun as Joker in that movie. So Batman 89 is my pick, with a close honorable mention shout out to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is my favorite of the Indiana Jones films. So yeah.
I mean, Michael Keaton was such a great Batman that 30 years later,
I know they're kind of bringing him back. We're not done with him, and a lot of people are super excited about seeing him in the Batsuit again. Imagine that, right? Even as a older Batman, like everybody's like, no, I buy it. Absolutely, let's do it. And just again, I want to see that Batmobile back on screen with that theme music playing, dude. Like I will jump out of my seat like with joy if they do that. And they have to. Like it has to do that at some point. So all right, man. Well, since we're at oh, sorry, go ahead.
Are you more excited to see Michael Keaton come back as Batman as you were to see Tobey Maguire come back as Spider-Man?
Yeah, I think they're about on the same level because I love, again, I have that personal connection with the 2002 Spider-Man as well. Like watching
Right.
that movie become a phenomenon in theaters and like being a big fan of it. Yeah, they're about on the same level. Like that, like this Flash movie having that aspect to it is really really exciting, and just seeing what they're gonna do with it, I'm super psyched, man. I can't wait. I hope it doesn't get delayed because I want to see it this
Right.
year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's gonna kill me if it
It's
gets delayed, like all these other things, but.
it's been delayed
I'm ready
enough.
for it. Yeah, right. But yeah, we're. Oh my God, Jacob Barber's being born. I can see it now. It's over there in the hospital. He's here, and he's here. And what does he pick for his birth year of 1990?
My
What does he
birth
pick?
my birth year, and fun fact, this also happened to be the number one movie in America the day I was born.
Mm.
It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I am
Ah.
I am a big Turtles fan. I
Mm.
watched the cartoon series as a kid. I actually have I still own the series to this day. I have like the Turtle Van
Oh,
set
the
with
Turtle
all the
Van box set. Yeah,
DVDs.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great set.
it's great. Yeah, this movie is just like it's fun. You know, there's the action scenes are great. The fighting scenes are great. It's got some emotion in it, like when they're worried about Raph. Like, man, I didn't think
Hmm.
turtles being sad would hit me, but it does.
Yeah, right.
Um, and it's a fun time. Yeah, it's very rewatchable in my opinion. And who doesn't love Casey Jones?
Casey Jones is the
Casey Jones.
greatest. Like, I got to see this movie at a theater a few years ago when I was still in Jacksonville. This place called Sunray Cinema did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pizza party screening where they showed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 version, and it was them and another local pizza place doing like a pizza competition during the movie. So they would serve you slices of pizza throughout the movie, and it was so much fun. Like it was so
Nice.
perfect, and it was great. And they had like a vote at the end of it. But man, like when Casey Jones like pops out of that tree, for his first appearance, like the crowd was just like, yeah, like, it was so fun, and he's the
Yeah.
best. And that movie, I still have the soundtrack on CD. Like the soundtrack is great. Yeah, even the score to that movie. There's a lot of bits from the score of that movie that are great. They're really really good. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
funny you should mention Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it's not my one from 1990, but it's the honorable mention from
Uh,
1990 for me. But my favorite from that movie is my second favorite movie of all time. The movie I have seen definitively more times, start to finish, than any other film in history, which is Tremors. Tremors
uh,
is my 1990 pick, which I just adore ever since I started seeing it as a kid. Like they used to play this movie all the time on the weekends, like on Saturday or Sunday on USA. I think because it was a Universal movie, it was on USA a lot
mm,
back in the day, and they would show it like every weekend. Eventually, they would start showing it on like the WB on like Sunday afternoons. I watched it every time it was on cable. I had the videotape. I've had it on DVD. You name it. I have the Arrow 4K now. Like I've had it on every piece of physical media you could have. It's just to me for what it is, like this little monster movie in this small town. It's a perfect film. It does exactly what it needs to do in 90 minutes. Sets up every character, has wonderful callbacks, establishes the environment. It's a perfect little script and film for 1990, and it's just a perfectly rewatchable movie with amazing characters. Again, great creature design, really unique creature design that we've never seen before, doing this whole floor is lava type thing. I just
mm.
love Tremors so much. I've probably seen it. Like when I say on these other shows, I've seen it like over 300 times. That's not an exaggeration. I've seen it over 300 times. I know if I had tallied it up, it's there. A lot of wasted hours on the on Tremors, but yeah,
That is
that's my pick.
300 times more than I've seen it.
Right, right.
I don't know. I don't know why I just haven't gotten around to this movie. I want to. I mean, it comes highly
I want
recommended.
to. I want to say it's on Netflix, like right now. Like it pops up on these streaming services. It kind of bounces
Okay.
around a lot, but I want to say the original one. I'm doing a quick fact check right now. Okay, it was for a little while, and of course now it's gone. It like jumps from service to service constantly.
Of course.
But anyways, but yeah, it's you can get with a whole series, like the 7-pack DVD, I've seen online for like $20. You can get like 7 movies for $20, including that one. You know what I mean? Because it's become this big franchise. But yeah, I highly recommend. The original is just such a compact, tight, fun little movie. Like I can't recommend it enough. I adore Tremors so much.
Yeah, it's one that's on my radar. I just got to get around to it. My runner up for my honorable mention for 90 was Edward Scissorhands. I really love that one too.
Oh, okay.
Close. Yeah,
I just picked up the Blu-ray for like $4. I haven't gone back to it in years. I need to. I really, really need to. It seems like a perfect winter movie because there's a lot of like snow in that movie, right? Like it's very wintry. Yeah, it seems like a good winter movie. Maybe I'll watch it while there's snow still sitting outside. It'll be a perfect like little mix that we're supposed to get in a couple of days.
Yeah, for me, it's one of those unofficial Christmas movies. That's not actually a Christmas movie. Is. So, but yeah, moving on to 1991, and this is where like the personal connections, and it's just a great movie. But Disney was a big part of my childhood. So Beauty and the Beast, I adore this movie. The animation.
You could almost say it's the best Disney movie of the 90s, right, Jacob?
Almost. No, for the longest time, I did have this above another Disney movie that I'll talk about later.
Sure.
But yeah, it's great. That opening scene, that opening song it's just fantastic. I think it sets everything up perfectly with Belle and who she is, what this town is, and then the story as we move on. Just seeing talking furniture. It's just a fun time, like you said.
Yeah,
rewatchable, and it was the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture. I think it just speaks to the quality of the film. The voice casting is fantastic. Angela Lansbury's song is just incredible. I still would listen to that to this day. Like it's so re-listenable.
There's a great YouTube video where she came out on stage somewhere. They were doing like a screening of it and sang it, and you could just feel the energy in the room, like when she was doing it, like everybody just bawling up with tears, but like tears of joy, but like joy at the same time, just like overwhelmed, just yes, like you're the best. And like you said, that and I even talked about that in our Battleground match. Like that opening song just sets up this town and the dynamic of the everything that's going on perfectly. It literally introduces every character. You get everything you need to know about each character in that song, which is just great writing. Gaston, even just the little bits of that song, and Belle, and all the characters are just wonderful. The dynamic between Lumiere and Cogsworth is great. It's like an Abbott and Costello type thing. Like it's really, really fun. They're not doing just like goofy slapstick. There is slapstick, but like there's a real dynamic to their relationship. You can tell that they're friends, but like they have that like you're an idiot, like I'm smarter than you, like you're just a dope, whatever. Like it's just but they love each other, like you can tell they do. It's like people in real life. Like I have friends like that where we're just like we constantly rag on each other, but it's all in good fun. Like we all know we're friends. But that's a great pick. It's a really fun movie.
Despite calling him a pervy candlestick, I do think Lumiere is a fun character.
What's up with that horny candlestick? It's like, I don't know. They wrote him like that.
I want to give a shout out to my honorable mention, but I have a feeling it might be
mine. Let me say mine because it might be mine because mine is Terminator 2. Is that your honorable mention? Exactly. See, I knew it. Yep. So of course it has to be Terminator 2. And again, I talk about all the time how if I had to choose between the two, I pick Terminator 1 just because it has that horror vibe to it. It feels like a slasher movie. Right. I just like the grittiness of it, like the fact that it's just this down and dirty thing. I love and I just adore the Michael Biehn, Kyle Reese character in that first movie. I think he's great. But like Terminator, it doesn't take anything away from Terminator 2. It's one of the legit greatest action movies of all time. And the fact that everything in that movie, special effects wise, action scenes wise, has a great blend of CGI that holds up and just amazing stunt work and practical stuff. Like that scene, dude. To this day, when the T-1000 takes over that semi and is chasing after John and busts through and goes over that bridge and crashes into the LA River, that little alley, and like it's all real, like you're just like, whoa, like how did anybody, like that's real, that's not fake, like they really just ran this thing into there and did that. Like it's incredible. And there's all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, and as much as you can tell, it's it's a stunt guy doing it. The motorcycle jump, then where the Terminator like jumps the motorcycle, like that's all real. Like you're still blown away by all the helicopter stuff at the end. Holy crap! When whoever they got to helicopter pilot that scene where he's going under the overpass and he's doing those quick like up and overs, those bridges, like that's phenomenal piloting there too. Like you're just to this day I'm in awe because I'm a big stunt. Like I appreciate like practical stunt work and all that kind of stuff too. And like there's some incredible stuff in that movie that still just blows your mind every time you watch it. Yeah, it's a great movie. Like what can we say about Terminator 2 that hasn't been said about Terminator 2? It's amazing.
Right. If I wasn't such a Disney kid, it probably would have been the pick. But
oh yeah, no, I'm glad you did because we got to talk about both of them. So
right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and because Disney is such a big part of my childhood, unfortunately, I cannot go with Batman Returns for 1992, which is my honorable
You have to
mention.
go with Aladdin, right?
I have to go with Aladdin.
Oh sure, of course.
I have to go with Aladdin. What hasn't been said about this movie too? I mean.
Oh, right. No, Robin Williams is amazing as the Genie. Yeah, no shit, right? Yeah, we've talked about it 100 times, of course. He's only probably the greatest Disney character creation that's ever been. Like, if you had to break it down, probably. And that's all from him and what he did with the character.
And when I think rewatchability, I don't think there's a Disney movie more rewatchable than Aladdin.
Yeah.
It's got everything you want. It's got great songs. It's got Robin Williams doing impressions, and the animation is fantastic. It's a great less than 90 minutes movie, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean,
dude, I still get goosebumps in the beginning when they're doing like the slow build up, and you get the shot of like the city as it's going Arabian, and it shows the shot. Like I get goosebumps on that. That's a great, like it's just great. They don't make movies like that anymore. Like Disney doesn't make movies like that anymore, man. It's a piece of history that will never be duplicated. And yeah, I'm glad you're a Disney person because you'll bring up a lot of movies I probably would bring up as like honorable mentions, but because these were all part of my show. Dude, I had all these VHS tapes. Like I watched the crap out of Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. All these. Of course I did. Like I was born in '86, dude. I saw these movies in the theater when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. So I have a huge connection to them. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because who doesn't love Aladdin? Right. It's incredible. Yeah. Now, funny enough, my pick is also a Disney movie, but it's a Disney live action movie. And I went with The Mighty Ducks because I just love The Mighty Ducks so much. Yeah. So 1992's The Mighty Ducks with Emilio. I think just one of the best underdog sports like kids movies ever made. It's just got such a great heart to it. I think Emilio's story is really, really good. Just being this like winner, hotshot lawyer, but like when you figure out his past, that he's just kind of overcompensating for the fact that he didn't live up to his coach's expectations, when he was a kid and blew it in the big game. So he feels like he has to, go over the top and win everything. And then being sentenced to this, DUI probation community service thing of coaching these kids. And he has the background of it and just kind of reconnecting to his past and what he loves. Like there's great stuff to watch if you're an adult. Like you go back and watch this movie, there's a lot of good themes in it that you don't pick up as a kid, all that stuff. So that's why it's so rewatchable for me, is like as I grow up and become more of an adult, like you go back to these movies and they take on a different meaning as an adult. Right. You see the adult's perspective in a lot of these movies that you never did when you were a kid, and you kind of relate to all this stuff. So yeah, like I love the Mighty Ducks a lot, and it's one of the reasons I really dug the Game Changers series that they did on Disney Plus, like bringing back, Emilio and continuing the story and all that. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, the Mighty Ducks is my pick.
That's one I need to rewatch. I haven't watched this for quite a few years, but yeah, it's great.
They're all on Disney Plus because they're all Disney movies, so they're easily accessible. Yeah,
I have them somewhere next to me too, actually, but I ordered the see, here's D3 right here, so they're next to me somewhere. I ordered the Disney Movie Club exclusives,
right,
so, but unfortunately 1993 did not have a Disney animated movie Really,
Yeah,
so
the one gap I know. Oh man, it must have been a horrible year in movies.
it was no
Yeah.
so shout out to my honorable mention, Dazed and Confused. I love that movie.
I
But
just
this
saw that
is
movie for the first time. We'll have to skip that because you won't like my opinion on that movie. So
uh
we'll skip that for now.
um yeah, so this was the one year where rewatchability did not play a factor.
Mm.
um I went with Schindler's List. I think
Okay.
I think I think it's an important movie. I think it's one that needs to be watched by just about everyone. It's brilliantly acted and incredibly directed. And yeah, it's emotional. It's not an easy rewatch. I mean, you can rewatch it, but
Hmm.
it's a hard watch, but it's worth it. It's
Yeah.
definitely worth the watch. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's one you can
Liam Neeson.
rewatch to study the masterclass in filmmaking that it does, and
Right. Yes.
how brilliantly it's filmed. Because I actually saw it twice last year. I think it was for other separate purposes, but yeah, it's beautifully shot. The score by John Williams is just it's a masterpiece as well. You know, it
Right.
sounds like the violin is crying, which is an expert touch. There was an AFI tribute to John Williams that you can find the clips of online when they play the Schindler's List theme, and everybody in the audience is like devastated by the end of it. Just playing the
Mhm.
music, and you can see like even John Williams watching his own stuff being played. He's just like, wow, I wrote that. Like it's one of these things of just, it's incredible. And yeah, it deserves to be mentioned. It's not like my favorite movie from 93 because I don't pop popcorn and go watch Schindler's List, but, but yeah, I mean,
Right.
it deserves all the accolades it gets. It easily is, yeah, the best movie of 1993. And I would see why people would put it on the list for sure. I went with the popular movie of 1993 that everybody saw, and of course the counterpart, the other Spielberg movie from '93. I went with Jurassic Park,
Yes.
of course, but that was a good year for Spielberg because he had this amazing blockbuster film, crazy movie, and then he had like what many consider is just his masterpiece of a film. So he had two, it was an incredible year for Spielberg. It was the year of Spielberg, and the fact that he was basically making them at the same time, essentially, because he was editing Schindler's List like at nights when he was doing Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? Like it
Mm.
was crazy. Like he was going back and forth trying to do. Or I'm sorry, it was the other way around. He was filming Schindler's List while at night, like editing Jurassic
Oh, okay.
Park and kind of like putting stuff together. But he would be like so depressed from. Or not depressed, but like it's such a
Right.
down film that Schindler's List is, and then trying to like edit and put together this big summer blockbuster, creature film, this thing, at the same time was tough. But I'm glad he was able to push through because yeah, it's another essentially masterpiece of his in a whole nother way of just epic, great storytelling. Again, amazing. Practical effects mixed with CGI that still holds up to this day.
Right.
All the dinosaur stuff still holds up, and again, the reason it holds up is because you get it in certain scenes, but then when there's this giant T-Rex head making its way towards Sam Neill's face and blowing his hat off, like you feel that, man. Like it's right there. When he
Mhm.
plants his foot into the mud and there's a real foot there, like it's there, and you just feel every second of it. So yeah, I've memorized this movie. I know this movie top to bottom, dialogue wise. I could memorize the whole or recite the whole thing. Yeah, Jurassic Park is Jurassic Park, man. Who doesn't love
It is
Jurassic Park? It's great.
great. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it would have been like my second if we did
the
two
honorable
honorable
mention.
mentions.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
great. Yeah, no, Spielberg knocked it out of the park with that one. Um,
Hmm.
so moving on to 1994, we're gonna go back to Disney. Of course, we are.
Hmm. Of
It's The
course,
Lion
I know
King.
where this is going.
The
Yeah, I know
Lion
where
King.
this is
This was
going.
the movie of my childhood. Like I watched
Hmm.
this every morning because I when I was in kindergarten they did half day kindergartens where I lived, which was weird, but I liked it. And so in the morning when my parents were working, I was at my grandma's house and I would watch The Lion King. And
It's what you
I think
do.
Yeah, and I can
Yeah.
remember just standing up in front of this little box TV in the
Mm-hmm.
bedroom I had at my grandma's house, and crying when Mufasa dies. Spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, hey, it's okay. The kids today saw the remake, so they know what happens, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That just speaks to how great this movie is, because they
Yeah,
did
yeah.
basically a shot for shot remake, and it's like, well, we can't take anything out. There's not really much
Well,
we can add to
and
it
we
to make
can't
it
get
better.
anybody else besides James Earl Jones to do Mufasa's voice, because that would
Exactly.
just be weird. So we got
Yeah.
to get the guy to come back and do it again. Yeah, yeah. It's just a testament to how great the original is, of course.
Yeah, and the songs by Elton John are fantastic. Timon and Pumba are such a great duo.
Hmm.
So much that they spawned their own series, and I enjoyed that as a kid too.
Hmm.
A movie that I can still watch to this day. The animation holds up. I think it's beautiful, just a beautiful movie. Um,
Hmm.
and Scar he's such a unlikable villain. He's just so good. And Jeremy Irons is the voice, like perfect voice
Hmm.
casting in my opinion.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
And "Be Prepared" is probably still to this day my favorite villain song of any of those movies, because all the villains always got the most fun songs and the biggest like
right,
set pieces. Because I love Ursula's thing too. Song that she does in Little Mermaid as well.
yeah,
But yeah, the villains always had just really fun like set piece songs that were kind of the centerpieces of the movies, and that's what made him so unique and fun. But yeah, he's great. Disney villains of the '90s were just so memorable and so fun.
they really
And
were.
yeah, just great storytelling. And yeah, when we were doing our battleground match and I had to argue against the Lion King, I was like, oh god. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Like I was like, why couldn't you have picked like something I probably could have picked apart easier? Not that it would have been any easier, but like, why couldn't you have picked like Hercules or some shit? Like I was like, damn, why did you have to pick the Lion King to move like this Oscar-winning, amazing? Like, come on, like,
right.
but yeah, it's
I,
so good.
I felt the same way arguing against Beauty and the
Yeah, you like
Beast. Like,
Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. Oh my God.
shoot,
Like, how do you
why
argue
couldn't you
against
pick
it? Yeah.
Hunchback?
Yeah, I know. Hunchback. Why could you pick Pocahontas? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, right. So it is what it is. But yeah, yeah, that's a great pick. And yeah, who doesn't love Lion King? I went with I went action again, with a close honorable mention to Shawshank, because who doesn't love Shawshank
Also, my
Redemption?
honorable mention.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who
Yeah.
doesn't love and rewatch another one that was a TNT staple on Saturday afternoons for 20 years? It's
Yeah.
like they had the rights to it, and boy, did they use it.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but I went with Jan de Bont's Speed with Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
I love Speed. Speed is just such a simple, fun action movie with a simple premise. It's like a lot of movies in the '90s. It's Die Hard on a blank. I mean, this one's Die Hard on a bus, and it's Die Hard. It is what it is, but it does it beautifully. Again, another great score. Every time the action ramps up, it's like that dun 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 dun. It just gets my heart going. Like it's really great. Dennis Hopper is a really like he's a fun scenery chewing villain. Pop quiz, hot shot. Just great stuff. He's so incredible. But the friendship and dynamic between Keanu Reeves and Jeff Daniels is great. Yeah, the movie's chock full of character actors that you recognize later when you become like a big movie fan. Like there's just
Mm.
character actors all sprinkled throughout that movie that are a lot of fun. But yeah, it's got a really simple premise at the heart of it, but it works, and it's just a great adrenaline '90s movie. Again with just great practical stunt work and practical stuff all throughout it. Yeah, I love Speed. Speed is infinitely rewatchable, and it's a lot of fun.
It's on the list. I have not watched it yet, but it's on the list.
You haven't seen Speed? Oh
I
my
haven't
God,
seen
you got to watch
Speed. I,
Speed.
I I own the Blu-ray, so I will be watching it soon.
Pop that shit in,
Yeah,
son. What are you
I need
you're
to.
missing? So you don't
I
even know
need
what I'm
to.
talking about with the score, man. The score is great. Oh my God, when the score
I,
kicks in, like like you'll see it because the opening credits are cool because this is like spoiling the movie. Just the opening credits are like just to scroll up this down this elevator shaft, and it has to do with the opening scene. But it's just the credits, but it's pumping this like amazing score that just gets you hyped up for the movie, even though you're just watching a scroll down an elevator shaft. And then
hmm,
when Keanu Reeves is first chasing the bus to try to get on it, like the score kicks in, and it's just like, man, you're like, I'm into this, man. This shit is good. And all it is somebody driving. You're just like, yeah, man, let's go. Like I tell you, yeah, you gotta watch Speed, man. Speed. All right, put these stars on these things. Speed and Tremors. Get to them sooner rather than later. Let's go. Come on, we're talking. We got to do a follow-up episode where you review some of these movies from this list. You know what I mean? And we talk these movies more in depth. Maybe we'll do like a redux where like you actually fill in some of these gaps, because I don't know if you'll have anything on the list that I haven't seen. So maybe not.
Probably
we'll see.
not.
If you do, I'll write them
one.
down. But maybe we'll do a redux of some of your blind spots from this show. We need to talk about them more thoroughly. Maybe we'll come back to it. So
there we go.
We'll see that.
That sounds like a plan.
All right. So we'll go to 1995, sir. What do you got for 1995?
Not Disney, even though I was this close to going with a Goofy movie. But we're
that would have been a nostalgia pick.
Yeah, we're gonna move over to
of
Pixar.
Course, Pixar. I know where you're going. Toy Story.
Toy Story. It's the first movie I saw in theaters as a little 5-year-old. Because who didn't enjoy playing with their toys as a kid? Who didn't want their toys to be alive and you know?
But it's the movie that makes you think like, now, do my toys really come to life when I'm not home? Like, do they have a life? Do they have a consciousness? And like, oh my God, how many did I give away at a garage sale or, you know, donate or something?
Yeah.
And oh my God, I'm so, like, especially Toy Story 3 at the end, you're just like, I'm so sorry, toys. I lost track of or didn't play with over time. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was another one that was a staple of my childhood. I loved Tim Allen and Tom Hanks as Woody and Buzz. I think Woody's character arc throughout the movie is great, where he comes from like this jealous I'm the guy, and you know, there's a new guy in town and I'm not sure how I feel about that, to, you know, realizing that no, it's about Andy, and if Andy, you know, wants to play with
happy.
If
you want everybody to be happy.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time I saw Toy Story in the theater, kind of like you were talking. I had a pounding headache that night. I remember as a kid, I was like 9 years old, and I had an aversion to taking pills. So my parents were trying to give me like aspirin, you know, or something, because they knew they had a headache. But I remember taking the aspirin and like throwing it under a car in the parking lot when they weren't looking, and being like, "Oh yeah, I took the aspirin." And so I just sat through the movie with like a pounding headache. But it was like a sold out show. I still remember, and us all just being blown away by, again, the effects that still hold up. The Pixar effects for that movie are still top notch to this day. They look great. I mean, they refined them over the years, but like they still work. Like I love the design of the movie. It was really fun.
Yeah, and it spawned a franchise where I wanted to know more about these characters, like where they came from. You know, in Toy Story 2 that was great. You know, Buzz has good, you know, comedic moments, and just the rest of the toys they're just, you know, a great support. And Wallace Shawn, who doesn't love a little Wallace Shawn?
Oh yeah, well, and I'll also shout out somebody else in the sidecast, the late great Jim Varney, my Ernest as Slinky Dog in that movie. You know, is Woody's good buddy. So a great sidecast sprinkled with, you know, character Annie Potts, you know, from Ghostbusters as Bo Peep, and John Ratzenberger as Ham. You know, like, I mean, just great little side characters that pop up all throughout that movie, and even the sequels, you know, with like Wayne Knight and Frasier, and I said Frasier, but you know, what's it, Kelsey Grammer, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, great voice casting all throughout. Like, just really, I'm glad that they used character actors for those side roles too. It's one thing that's kind of been lost in a lot of movies now, is I've talked about this, but the fact that they have to rely on, like, we have to get an A-list actor for like every part. It's like, no, you can give like character actors and voice actors like these parts too, and they can make them unique and fun. You know, you don't have to get like, not everybody has to be Hollywood A-lister number 5, you know, to fill out your cast. It's like, you can have these fun character actors and give them some work, you know.
Yeah, just put Alan Tudyk in your movie and you'll be fine.
Then you'll be good. You're all set. Yeah, it works. He can do anything. The man can do no wrong. I went with a Disney movie, again, another Disney live action movie for 1995. I went with Heavyweights. Heavyweights is my pick.
Yes.
Have you seen Heavyweights? First of all?
I have, yes.
Okay, good. I actually live in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and they filmed Heavyweights at a camp a few miles away from my place right now.
Okay.
I have been there. I have filmed videos on Facebook. At the location, I snuck on with my mom onto the camp because it was when they were closed in the wintertime, so there's nobody there. But I've stood in the courtyard where they do a lot of the scenes right there in that main courtyard area. I've seen the lake where they had the blob, a lot of the cabins. I've been there. But yeah, it's like just one of those classic kid power movies, kid power, that was a big thing in Nickelodeon back in the day. It was like, we're going to take over the adults, do our thing. And, but it's this total like fantasy thing of them taking over this camp, but like, overcoming Ben Stiller in an all-time role to this day. I think Ben Stiller is absolutely brilliant in that movie as this psychotic, Tony Perkins. He's amazing. It's just one of his great roles that he would, you can make an argument that Dodgeball is a spiritual sequel, that he went off for a little while and then changed his identity because he got in this scandal but stayed the same person and just changed his name. Like, people have made that fan theory argument that because he's essentially the same character.
I want to do that double feature.
Oh, it's a great double feature because it's in a world you could literally rationalize because he gets taken off to like a mental hospital at the end of Heavyweights, and you could think that he changed his identity and his look and everything, and did all this and just became this other character and like bought a gym because his dad has money, so and then just started doing this global gym thing and just moved to another city. Yeah, you can make that argument. I've seen it made. So, but yeah, it's great. So yeah, Heavyweights is my pick for 1995.
So 1996, not going Disney. We're done with Disney for a while. I went with the Frances McDormand movie Fargo.
Oh yeah. Fargo. Yeah. You're gonna go to Brainerd? Yeah, Brainerd. Yeah.
I thought this movie was great. I remember watching it for the first time, and Frances McDormand is definitely a standout. I think she gives a great performance. But I can never remember William H. Macy, right?
William H. Macy, yeah.
Name? Yeah. I thought he was great. I love this movie for the performances and the story. The accent is just, it's so quotable. Like, you just want to talk like that when you're done.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh sure.
Well, sure. You're gonna go to the Ramada. Yeah. Okay. yeah. Hey, Wade. Yeah. What are you doing, Wade? Just it's so silly, so fun.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, when I pick my favorites, I'm not picking movies that are necessarily always, expertly made, like Schindler's List, or for 1995, it would have been easy to go with Seven.
Sure.
But sometimes you just want to have fun with movies. You just want people who are having fun and a story that is, easy to follow, but also fun. And I think Fargo fits that bill for me. I was this close because, again, I am a Disney kid. I'm an animation kid. I was this close to go with James and the Giant Peach just because I love the uniqueness of it and the quirkiness. And I don't know if I've told you this before, but Tim Burton is my favorite director. I just love his style, and this is very Tim Burton-esque.
Yeah.
So I love that style, like that style of animation. So it was really close, but I ultimately ended up going with Fargo because, like, I think just easily the performances in that movie.
Well, the dynamic between Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare is fun too. Like their story, is a lot of fun, and again, using those character actors, to a great degree, and giving them a real spotlight. In that movie's always been a big Peter Stormare fan. Like I'm a huge fan of his between that and Armageddon and Constantine and Lost World. Every time he shows up in movies, like, he's just always great and steals the show. And yeah, Buscemi's awesome, and they have a nice line that describes Buscemi perfectly, where he's funny looking. Yeah, he is. He's a funny looking guy. That perfectly describes Steve Buscemi. So yeah, but yeah, with 1996, I went with another Jan de Bont directed film. He directed Speed, and then 2 years later, he directed a movie that I've owned on every form of physical media as well that I watched the hell of when I was a kid, and I still love it. That's Twister. I went with Twister. Twister is just mega fun. I again remember seeing this one in the theater. It came out. It was the first theater in Jacksonville that had stadium seating, the Regal on Beach Boulevard, and so we went to go see it. The opening weekend of the theater was up, and just super fun. I've always had a great connection to this movie. I'm a huge Bill Paxton fan. Always have been. Leading this movie. He'd always been mostly kind of a side guy or part of an ensemble. So he gets to be the lead here, and he's great. Him and Helen Hunt are wonderful. Again, another movie's just sprinkled and littered with great character actors: Philip Seymour Hoffman, Carrie Elways, Alan Ruck, Sean Whalen. Just great characters throughout. And just super fun, and a great kind of disaster movie, and it's just a fun dynamic with this crew chasing tornadoes. It breezes by. It's just, I just like it. It's not a perfect movie, but I rewatch it all the time, and I get into it. I'm waiting for the 4K. Where the hell's my 4K of Twister? So I can buy it again on yet another piece of physical media, because I've owned it on VHS and DVD and Blu-ray. You know what I mean? Another one that just I'll find an excuse to buy it again. Every time.
Yeah. There's a restaurant in my town, and they have one TV that they play a movie on, and they just I think they rotate, because for the longest time I remember it being Transformers, but then for the longest time it was Twister, and they'd have the subtitles on because they didn't have the volume on, and I'd find myself, instead of go into the arcade that's attached, or playing the video games that they have in this section,
go watch Twister
here,
for like 20 minutes.
I would sit at the table closest to it, because it's not a big screen. Probably as big as a laptop screen, maybe a little bit bigger. And I would just sit there while I'm eating my quesadilla. It was the restaurant was called the Quesadilla Factory. And I would watch Twister. I would read the subtitles, and I would sit there for a little longer after I'm done eating, because I wanted to watch more. It is. It's just,
right.
It's a great time. So
there's a restaurant near us called Binion's, and it's like a steak place, kind of a laid back country western kind of steak place, and they have a TV that's constantly we always get seated near it, not intentionally, it's just always we always get seated, but there's a TV that shows Tombstone on loop. So they're always watching Tombstone. So so I've seen like half of Tombstone just from going to that restaurant, going all the way through. Not that I haven't seen Tombstone, but like I've seen almost every piece of Tombstone ever since we've been there. So that's always fun. What's your we're moving into what, 1997.
1997. And this was the easiest choice of them all, because this is also my favorite movie of all time. Knock Sweeney Todd out. That might be showing up later. It's Good Will Hunting, with a shout out to Titanic. Especially since you brought this up, like the last half of that is really like, it's a nearly perfect disaster movie.
As soon as that movie kicks into gear, like when they first when the guy, they cut to the guys in the bird's nest, in the crow's nest or whatever, and spot the iceberg, and it starts to ramp up, iceberg, run it. And the rest of that movie is a pitch perfect disaster movie from like start to finish, which is why a lot of people in that double VHS set would sometimes just pop in that second tape, because that's pretty much where the first one kind of starts. But
but I went with Good Will Hunting. This is, as much as I love him as the Genie, this is my favorite Robin Williams performance. Like when he has these dramatic roles, he knocks it out of the park. He's so good. I love the back and forth between him and Matt Damon anytime they're on screen together. And wonderful script. Just I love it. If I get started, I probably won't stop. Let's just say I think this. I'll keep talking about it for the rest of our time.
Oh, right. Yeah, we do a 2-hour show just talking about Good Will Hunting. Yeah.
So
it's like the whole movie.
It's got a lot of great actors: Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Ben Affleck. Minnie Driver is great. I love this. Casey Affleck. I could go
Mhm.
on and on about this movie, but yeah,
Yeah,
especially
like I said,
that
it's a great.
monologue.
Oh yeah, the monologue is great, but I was gonna say even though that's great, like even the stuff that is funny, when they finally kind of start connecting, and he's doing the story about his wife farting in farting in her sleep, and he's making Damon like cry. I think behind the scenes wasn't that a lot of that like improv or wasn't in the script, and they just kept a lot of it in the
I
movie. I think
think
like he was just going
so.
through it,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was just like something he did kind of off the cuff, and it became like this another classic scene in that movie, where Damon's just dying laughing on the chair. And yeah, if you just feel that connection, like they're finally starting to like get each other. But yeah, like that his monologue on the bench is like an all timer. Yeah, it's an all timer that people to this day will do for like drama classes. Like
Mhm.
they'll pick that and just do it. And there's a good reason for it. It's hey, picked up an Oscar for writing for Damon and Affleck. Who'd have thought?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's so good. I didn't think a movie was gonna knock out what was my previous number one, and as soon as I saw this, I was like, nope, that's it. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the one.
Totally. I went a whole different direction, but I went with a movie that's near and dear to me. I went with David Fincher's The Game. Is my favorite of
Oh, okay.
1997.
Haven't seen it.
Have you seen it?
I
You
have
haven't
not.
seen it? Okay, put it on the list because I love it. It's Michael Douglas basically doing his Wall Street role again. He's kind of a high end, businessman, sort of a fancy guy, but he signs up for this mysterious organization that lets you play out a game in real life, but you don't know like what's part of the game and what's not, as you're going through life. And it's just it's a really great twist and turn and great atmospheric as you would expect especially in a 90s Fincher movie, coming off of Seven. But really, really fun. Sean Penn is in there as his brother. It's really, really tight, fun movie with some great twists at the end. But yeah, David Fincher, if you haven't seen it, it's an underrated Fincher gem that I think more people should see. Like I adore The Game so much.
Okay.
Definitely check it out.
It's on the list.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is the year 1998. This is the year where I think we might have the same movie.
I was close. I eventually put it in my honorable mention instead of my one, but I think I know what you're
Okay.
gonna say.
Yeah, mine's The Truman Show.
It's got yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
I've debated between Truman Show and another movie, and I just went with another movie for how many times purely I put it on and watched it.
Okay.
But yeah, the Truman Show was like my razor thin honorable mention.
Yeah.
Yes.
My honorable mention for this year was The Prince of Egypt. I think
Mm,
it's a nearly perfect animated movie, with a
mm-hmm,
great voice cast and tells the story of Moses so perfectly. But The Truman
mm-hmm.
Show it's a movie that actually, thanks to you, I watched for our battleground match, and I wanted to
Yeah.
hate it. I wanted to hate it,
God, you
so it
yeah, I
was
know. You
easy
like
to argue
even when you
against.
watch it, you're like, man, I want to pick this movie apart, but like I can't because it's fucking perfect. Like it's
And,
such a great movie.
and even like the flaws I did find, they were just minor nitpicks. There's
Mhm.
really nothing wrong with this movie. It's a great Jim Carrey performance. The story is so unique, kind of, and then the fact that he's part of the show and good night, good morning, whatever they say. It's just
Mhm.
um, I can't remember now. It's late. It's not
Good
late for
afternoon,
me
good
actually.
evening, and good night.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, and you're rooting for Jim Carrey to get out. You want him to get out. And when he finally goes through that door at the end of the movie and
Yeah.
he closes it, and that's where the movie that's it cuts off.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't do a follow up. I'm glad we just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
get to think about, all right, well,
Mhm.
where's Truman
Well,
now?
you could fill it in. It's a choose your own adventure at that point.
Right,
What happens
right.
to Truman? Does he go out and become this major celebrity? Because he's probably the most famous person on the planet. Can he live a normal life outside of this thing? Does he yearn to go back into this bubble that was created for him because it's
Mhm.
safe and it's calculated and it's where he's just a guy. Just a part of this town. Is he able to adjust? To this life? Is he paranoid that he's still in a created world even outside of this
Right.
film. You know what I mean? Is he still being followed? I mean, I think there's definitely ideas you could do there if you
Yeah.
wanted to. But yeah, it's such a perfect little film that really only takes place over a couple of days, but you feel like you've been with the movie for the years that it portrays, you know, which is how it's so brilliantly written, is that you feel like you've been watching the Truman Show when you're watching the movie for 20 years, you know, 25 years, whatever it is. And you get sucked into that world. Yeah, Truman Show is a great pick. I mean, it's slowly creeping into my top 64. I don't think it was on my episode, but man, it's leering in, you know, from the door. You know, it wants to jump in there. So,
Yeah.
and it probably will at some point. Yeah.
I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. It's number 12 on my overall list. I
Oh wow.
loved it
Okay.
that much.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my honorable mention. But for my main one, I went horror with The Faculty. I've watched this movie
Oh, okay.
so many times. I just adore The Faculty. I've talked to at length about how much a fan of like stuff, you know, Invasion of the Body Snatchers type stuff, which is this movie takes a similar approach. It's not literally pod people, but it's people being taken over, you know, and becoming part of a collective. You know, it's Body Snatchers. It gets referenced in there. But just it's got that late 90s post Scream. It's written by Kevin Williamson, who did Scream. So it's got this sort of meta quality to it as well, you know, where the characters are kind of aware of the things that are going on. They figure out things quickly. They're smart. And just a awesome cast of people you recognize. I mean, Josh Hartnett, Elijah Wood, Jordana Brewster, you know, Famke Jensen, Robert Patrick, Piper Laurie, Usher. It's got, you know, Clea Duvall. Oh my God, there's endless people. Everybody you see in this movie is somebody. I mean, Salma Hayek is in this movie. Everybody, just in a thankless role. Everybody's in this movie, and it's great. It's a nice snapshot of the late '90s, but it's endlessly rewatchable for me. It's just got that vibe, and I just like the vibe of this movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie once, but I might need to go. I might need to go back and rewatch it.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. 1999. I'm calling an audible. I'm switching my honorable mention with the movie I had. The movie I did have will become my honorable mention now because I'm thinking about rewatchability, and I might rewatch Fight Club a little bit less than I would rewatch The Iron Giant. I love that movie. I'm an animation guy. I love animation, and and when animated movies can be heartfelt and entertaining, and just fun, I think.
And when they can use Vin Diesel properly,
yes.
Yeah, right.
If Vin Diesel can just do voice work for the rest of his career,
oh yeah, he would be great.
Yeah, he's got this. Yeah. He's got Groot, and people love it.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just great. I remember watching this as a child too, and even as an early teen. Fight Club, I was a little late to, and the twist was kind of spoiled because like it's a 20-year-old movie, so you know, rightfully so. It didn't take away my enjoyment of the movie, but you know, I feel like watching it not knowing anything for the first time is the best way, obviously. But The Iron Giant was just a lot of fun. I never thought a robot would make me sad.
Yeah.
And it does. It's just, I love it. I don't know what else to say about it.
It's one
for me.
I haven't gone back to it in years. I need to go back and do a rewatch because it's probably been 10, 15 years since the last time I saw it. But yeah, I need to go back to it because of course everybody raves about, you know, people always say it's the most underrated animated movie of the 90s, you know, that sort of thing. Still kind of overlooked to this day, even though everybody who sees it loves it. It's still kind of one of those hidden gems of the 90s. Yeah, it's definitely very well written. It feels like an adult animated movie almost, you know, just, you know, it's like made for an older audience, but still an animated movie. Like kids can enjoy it, but I think it speaks more to maybe people in their teens or 20s or something. But yeah, a really, really well written movie. Yeah, that's a good pick because, again, much like the movie itself, I forgot about the Iron Giant because you forget about the Iron Giant, but you shouldn't forget about the Iron Giant because the Iron Giant's great. It's the whole narrative of that movie.
And I think it portrays like what a single mother has to go through. I think it portrays that pretty well. So I'm glad they kind of like hit on that. So,
well, my honorable mention it was a great year for movies. 1999 was. People talk about that a lot. My runner-up was The Matrix, of course, because who doesn't like The Matrix? But I went with the one again I've seen almost as many times as Tremors, and the one that on our tournament fights was the underdog of the show and the dark horse of the show. That's The Mummy, The Mummy from 1999.
Yes.
Love me The Mummy. I have to go with that. Still remember seeing it in the theater, just having an absolute blast. Another one that I've owned on every piece of physical media you can own it on. Wore it out on every single one of them. I now own the 4K, and it's great. The Mummy is just, I think it's just one of the most purely entertaining movies of the 90s, like start to finish. It just has a great sense of adventure fun. Like if you have not gone back to this movie, they don't make movies like this anymore that are just fun, adventure, breezy, but like really great characters. Again, chock full of like awesome character actors in every little role throughout the movie. Just really, really fun people. It's funny. It's fun. It's scary at times. Like it's another almost perfect movie for me. Like it just has a little bit of everything, and I just can rewatch. I could watch this movie once a week, and I'd be perfectly happy with that. I just dig the vibe of this whole thing. Yeah. It's so much fun.
It really is, and Brendan Fraser is a legend.
Yeah, he's the man.
Brendan Fraser.
And I'm ready for his comeback. The man is due for a comeback. You know what I mean? And he's going to be in the new Scorsese movie in December, The Killers of the Flower Moon, which I'm hoping kind of triggers a resurgence for Brendan Fraser because the man deserves it. He was all over the place in the late 90s, early 2000s, and he deserves, almost a Nick Cage-esque comeback. He deserves it, man. Yes. He deserves it, man. I'm rooting for him. Always rooting for Brendan Fraser. Love the man.
Yeah.
2000. All right, we're at the millennium. It's Y2K, man. What's going on? It's crazy.
Still got 20 years to go. I'm gonna move this a little.
I know.
I'm gonna start moving a little faster because
it's all good. Hey, if this is one of our longer episodes, it's fine. We'll have fun. It's all good. Who cares? We're having fun.
2000. I was this close to going with Remember the Titans. I think it's a great football movie, but it's so much more than a football movie. I went with Almost Famous.
See, another still blind spot of mine that I've not gotten around to. So it's the one, but I own the Blu-ray. It's right over there. I bought I think on your recommendation, because I think it was in your top 64, right? When we did yours.
No, this was,
or was it?
It wasn't. This was
it was in somebody's top 64. It was somebody's 64. And but I think, were you on that episode?
I was.
Were you? Okay, so you talked about how much you loved it too. So you guys both talked about how you loved it. So I'm a physical media guy, so I just went online. The Blu-ray was like $10, and it was the bootleg cut is what they call it. It's like the extended cut. It's like 30 minutes longer. It's crazy longer, not just like 10 minutes, like 30 minutes longer. So I'll get to it at some point because I hear nothing but praise for it. But please go ahead. Almost Famous.
I really enjoyed this. I watched this for the first time last year, actually, and it just made such an impression on me. I think the performances in this movie were fantastic. Patrick, I can never say his last name. Patrick Fugit almost sounds like Fugit. Fugit. I don't know how to say it. He gives like the cast is just stacked. I'm just gonna. So it's got Billy Crudup, Kate Hudson is in this movie, Frances McDormand, Jason Lee, Zooey Deschanel in one of her earlier roles, Anna Paquin's in this movie, Philip Seymour Hoffman is also in this movie.
So everybody is somebody in this movie. One of those movies where everybody is somebody you're happy to see. Yeah, definitely.
Jay Baruchel shows up. Jimmy Fallon. I don't hate Jimmy Fallon in this movie. I don't watch a lot of his talk show, but in this movie, he's fine. Just a great following a band. Kid wants to be a writer. I think the story is just, I don't want to say too much because you haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it made such an impression on me the first time I watched it that, um, I almost went back to it right away. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to rewind it and watch it again. Yeah, I would recommend watching like the original cut and
Okay.
then watching what they add. I think it does add some to the story. But yeah, without going into it too much and talking about the story too much, it's great performances. And I believe it's a Tiny Dancer when they start singing Tiny Dancer. That's just a
Oh,
fun.
my comes a tiny dancer.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see. It was one of those like people talked about it, and I was like, all right, well let's see if it lives up to the hype, and it did.
Mm, yeah. Sounds good, man. Yeah, I'm gonna get to it as soon as I can. Yeah, as soon as I get some time to just chill and watch it, I definitely will. Because yeah, I've been meaning to hear out to it. I said I don't mind blind buying stuff, especially if I hear great things about it. From multiple people. I'll just blind buy Blu-rays. I don't care. Because yeah, why not? If I love it, I love it,
Yeah.
and then I'll check it out. So 2000, I went with another sort of. Post Scream fun kind of meta horror movie. I one that spawned a franchise I'm a big fan of. I went with Final Destination.
Oh,
I
okay. Yeah.
adore the original Final Destination. Um, Devon Sawa is really great. I'm a big fan of his. And he's kind of been having a comeback recently. He did a movie called Hunter x Hunter recently. That if you haven't seen it, it's really great. But he's I just love the premise of the movie of him trying to cheat death, and death just being this entity. It's not a physical killer going after these people. It's just like this spirit thing, something that you can't escape. That's kind of inevitable. The way they play with like all the different Rube Goldberg, kind of things that eventually kill the person. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a great ride, and I think the first one takes itself a little more serious than the sequels would kind of be. A little more over the top and kind of
Hmm.
silly, but it's got a really great atmosphere to it, a really great vibe. Tony Todd is wonderful as Bloodworth, this morgue guy. He's great. But yeah, Final Destination, just an absolute blast. If you haven't gone back and watched the original one in a while, I highly recommend it. Definitely.
I haven't, so I just might have to.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with what you said about Devon Sawa. As long as he doesn't make movies like The Fanatic.
Yeah, no, go watch a movie he did recently called Hunter x Hunter. He plays like this mountain man kind of guy with a family that just like hunts for a living and stuff, and investigates some weird stuff going on in the woods. Just this mountain guy. Like he's really, it's a really subtle, like really fun performance. So yeah, if you want to see what Devin Sawa was up to, that's not The Fanatic. Go watch Hunter x Hunter.
So I'm
All
gonna
right.
cheat. I'm gonna cheat a little bit here because
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna talk about the next 3 years together.
Ah, okay.
Because my picks for 2001, 2002, and 2003 are all Lord of the Rings.
Ah, I see. Okay,
Because
I almost went
I
with one of those for two. I almost went with Return of the King for 2003, but I didn't go with it. So yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
Hey,
to
that's
me
fine. That's fine.
I think it's just it's a perfect trilogy, and for me personally, like I can't watch one without watching the others.
Yeah.
Once I get started on this journey, I I want to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to choose one as my favorite, I would probably go Return of the King, even though it does end like 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think when the comedy's there, the comedy lands. When the action's there, it's a great. It's got a tremendous cast, and if I want to sit down for 11 hours
Oh yeah.
and watch
I wake up
cinema.
one day and man, I just want to sit down and watch 12 hours worth of movies. Man, let's do it. Yeah, definitely.
If that ever crosses my mind, this is the
Right.
series I want to do it with. I do want to shout out for 2001 Spirited Away. I know you're not a big anime guy, I
Yeah.
love it. I love this movie. 2002.
I get why people like those movies. It's just not for me. That's just all I
Right.
say. It's
Yeah.
just not
Yeah.
for me. It's not for me. But I totally get why people love like those Miyazaki movies, things like that. Studio Ghibli stuff. Like I totally get it. Again, it just for me personally, I will never trash people who like it. Like I'm
Right.
just
Yeah.
like to me, it's just not. It's just not for me. So that's what I'll usually say.
No.
You
Yeah.
guys have fun. It's just not my thing. It's not my bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys have fun.
I'll watch the anime. You'll watch the horror, and then
Yeah,
we'll,
there you
we'll talk
go.
about it later.
Well,
Um,
funny you should mention horror because I went with another horror movie for 2001. I went with another Bill Paxton film. I went with Frailty, which is a movie I'm really high on.
oh yeah. Yeah. You've talked about
Frailty,
that.
yeah, I've talked about Frailty before. It's another just great kind of underrated hidden gem from the early 2000s that Bill Paxton stars in and directed. Just a
Oh,
really
I didn't know
simple
that.
story about this. Yeah, he directed it, and he's directed a couple movies, unfortunately, before he passed. But yeah, it's just a simple story. This single dad, which we don't see a lot. We don't see a lot of single dads in movies, but it's a single dad,
Yeah.
with his two sons, and it's just a simple story without spoiling anything. Of like, he has a vision, or does he? At one night, because they play around with it a lot, of from God about how he's got to have this new mission to destroy demons on Earth or people who he thinks are demons, and one kid buys into it and the other one doesn't, and it creates this crazy family drama and tension. But it plays like a horror movie as well. It's more of a psychological horror movie, but it's a lot of fun. But it bounces back and forth between the actual stuff going on and as it's being told by Matthew McConaughey, telling the story to Powers Booth in this FBI office, and he's kind of telling the story, and we flash back and forth. But really, really great cast. And just a really great atmospheric psychological horror movies that if you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend Frailty. Like it's a great gem from
Mhm.
the early 2000s. Definitely.
So, what is your 2002? We've kind of
Oh,
covered the
that's all
next
right.
few
Yeah, I
years
forgot
for
you.
me.
You
So,
covered
yeah,
the 2 years, so
I cheated.
we'll stick with me for a minute. No, it's all right. 2002, I went with Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, which is a movie I just totally dig on and have seen many, many, many times. It's one of those movies I can just put on in the background and just have a great time with. Phenomenal set design, costume and character design. You really get sucked into this world of the 1860s New York, and these 5 points and things, and this dynamic of the native, New Yorkers kind of, Bill the Butcher represents the native New Yorkers that have this prejudice and hate for like these Irish immigrants and all these immigrants coming in and kind of taking over New York, and they're having none of it, and just the clash of the styles. And then you get almost like a Warriors thing where you got all these different gangs running around that all have their own unique style, the Plug Uglies and the Slaughterhousers and the Dead Rabbits and all this stuff. That stuff's a lot of fun. DiCaprio's great in it too. Like everybody talks about Daniel Day-Lewis is Bill the Butcher, rightfully so. He's incredible in the film, and he creates one of the great characters of all time. But Leo's really great. And again, another movie that Martin Scorsese knows how to use great character actors. John C. Reilly's in this movie, like a lot of Brendan Gleeson, a lot of the great kind of British character actors. His name Jim Broadbent's in this movie. Really great people. So yeah, if you haven't gone back to Scorsese's Gangs of New York, I really recommend it. The only negative I have about the movie, and it bugs me just because she was miscast, is Cameron Diaz. Her Irish accent is absolutely atrocious in the film, and
Uh,
it doesn't ruin the movie, but she's just miscast. It should have been
mhm.
somebody else. I mean, she was
Okay.
just kind of she was hot at the time,
Right.
so she got used, but she's just miscast. So if you can get over the stuff with her, if you can put that aside, the movie's pretty great, and I love it. I love it to pieces. So
Okay.
Gangs of New York was my pick for 2002. My pick for 2003 is Old Boy. Uh, Park Chan Wook's
Oh.
Old Boy. Old Boy is one of the greats of Korean cinema, and if you can really do a deep dive on Korean films and these kind of revenge films from South Korea in the early 2000s, Lady Vengeance and all this kind of stuff, it's all great. If you haven't gone back to watch the original Old Boy, man, it just kicks. It's a lot of fun. The story about this guy that gets mysteriously kind of kidnapped and thrown into this room for 15 years and has nothing but, has the same meals, can't escape this room, is pumped full of violence on television and tough man fights and all kinds of stuff, and he just trains and then he's mysteriously just let out 15 years later and goes on this revenge tour. It's really really great and a lot of fun. So if you haven't gone back to watch Old Boy, I highly recommend it. It's one of the great foreign films out there, definitely in the 2000s.
Yeah, that one's high up on my list to find and watch. I haven't seen it
It's
yet,
kind of
so
oddly hard to find.
yeah.
I ordered a if you have 4K capability, there's a 4K from Arrow Video, and 4K. All the 4K discs, just a fun fact, are region free. Everything 4K is region free, so it doesn't matter where you get it from. They all will play. I ordered that recently just to have a physical copy. But yeah, the DVDs are kind of like out of print, oddly, and it's not available on a lot of streaming platforms. It's just one of those weird movies. I don't know why. It shouldn't be because it's great. But yeah, Old Boy's my pick. So there you go, with a solid honorable mention to X2, X-Men United. Great X-Men movie, and one of the ones where we all were like, finally they let Wolverine be Wolverine. So yeah, good stuff.
My honorable mention for 2003 was the skateboard movie Grind.
That's I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, that's another like nostalgia pick. I was just turning into a teenager, and my brothers and I, like, they actually skateboarded, and I just liked watching it, and so we kind of bonded over this movie. My dad really enjoyed it, so it was a movie like as a family. I understand, like, I rewatched it recently because I was able to find a DVD copy at like a local store here, and like the acting, not great. But it's fun, and it reminds me of.
Are you a big Vince Valoof fan? he's if you don't know, he was coming off of Rat Race. He's the guy who's Seth Green's brother in that movie who pierced his own tongue, and then he's in Grind, running around just being silly. It was like his two movies back to back, and then he kind of disappeared. But I don't even know why I remember his name just because it's such a unique name. It's like Vince Valoof or whatever his name is. I saw Grind in the theaters, Jacob. I've seen Grind, which you probably wouldn't have been surprised, but I saw Grind in the theaters.
And for the longest time, like, I could not find that movie. As soon as I found it, I didn't care how much it cost. I was like, I'm taking this home with me. So
it all builds up to like him meeting Bam Margera and like skating with Bam Margera at the end. It's such a 2003 movie. Totally. Yeah, you see a nice snapshot of like early 2000s skateboard culture. Yeah, Grind is a good one to go look at.
A completely different movie is my choice for 2004.
Sure.
I was very surprised that I did not go with The Incredibles, which is my favorite Pixar movie. I went with, because I'm a huge Johnny Depp fan, and I think his best performance is in Finding Neverland as J.M. Barrie. I love this movie. I think it's mostly rewatchable until that final part of the movie. I think his interactions with all the kids are fun. Dustin Hoffman gives a great performance in this movie. And just kind of seeing how the story of Peter Pan came to be, I think is a fun time. But once that emotion hits, like, it hits hard, and I think it's a great movie. I would have had this movie won Best Picture that year, but you can't fault the one that did win. It's also a great movie. But
what was the one that won again? Remind me.
2004, I believe it was $1 Million Baby.
Oh, $1 Million Baby. Yeah, that was the one that had the momentum, and it was one of the few. Yeah, I remember Oscar movies that was like a box office hit too, that like everybody saw that year too. So which doesn't always happen. But yeah, they kind of went with the popular favorite that year. What are you gonna do? $1 Million Baby. But yeah, Finding Neverland's one. I'm due for a rewatch because I haven't seen it since the theater. I have not gone back to watch it since I saw it years and years ago in the theater. So I haven't. I need to go back to it and check it out. But I think it would make a good double feature with Saving Mr. Banks. Kind of both of these, like, the author of the thing, kind of exploring the character, because that one explores like the books of like Mary Poppins becoming a movie and all that kind of stuff. So it would make a nice little double with Saving Mr. Banks. But yeah. All right, so I went with, for 2004, my honorable mention is Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. which I think is a great horror remake and super fun. But the more I thought about it, the one that I've gone back and rewatched that I seem to be the only one on the planet who just like enjoys this movie to pieces. That's Troy. I love Troy.
Okay. Seen it
Yeah,
one
with Brad
time.
Pitt. Yeah, it's super fun. If you do watch it, watch the extended cut. There's like an extended cut that's like 3 hours long, but
Okay.
it makes a difference because it has a lot more character beats and character depth. But a stack cast. It's Brad Pitt, Eric Bana, Orlando Bloom, Brian Cox, Brendan Gleeson, Peter. Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? Lawrence of Arabia, Peter O'Toole. Yeah, Peter O'Toole. He's the king. It's one of his last kind of great movies. Tons of people scattered throughout it. Tyler Mane who was Sabretooth and like X-Men, the original X-Men, and Michael Myers and all that kind of stuff. Like he's Ajax, this big giant hulking mammoth dude who literally carries like a primitive like sledgehammer, not even a sword as a weapon. It's like a sledgehammer. He just pummels dudes with a sledgehammer. Like it's awesome. But like Brad Pitt's the man. Like he's a badass as Achilles in this movie, and it's got a great dynamic where he's like fighting for him, but he hates Brian Cox and insults him as like the king, and they have this great back and forth, and him and Eric Bana have a great dynamic in the movie. If you want to see Orlando Bloom, he's kind of like really badass as like Legolas, he's a bad mofo, and like he's even pretty badass in like Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. If you want to watch him be a little bitch, watch this movie. Who be a little pussy who gets his ass kicked by Brendan Gleeson. Watch this movie and runs away from a fight. Watch this. So if you want to see like the total opposite, watch Troy. But it's really good. I just dig the progression of it. Great fight scenes. Again, really nice character beats throughout it. I enjoyed Troy more and more, and I try to recommend it to people to give it another chance because there's a lot of sword and sandal movies around that time, but I think Troy's one of the better ones that people should give a rewatch to. Wolfgang Peterson directs it. It's really good. So yeah, if you haven't gone back to check out Troy, go back and check out Troy, especially the director's cut.
Yeah, I need to. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
2005 was a weird year because I was looking at it and not a lot of movies for me personally like stood out. There was Batman Begins and I was close on that one, but I ended up going with Coach Carter. Yeah, Coach Carter with Samuel L. Jackson.
That's what I'm going to rewatch. I'm going to rewatch this week at some point because we're going to be doing the basketball movies thing next week for tournament or tier ranker fights. So I'm going to go back and rewatch it. I bought it on Vudu. I'm gonna because I've only seen pieces of it. I've seen like scenes, here and there on cable and stuff. So I've never sat down and watched it. But yeah, I know Sam Jackson. It's like the famous line where he's like, it's like I'm not your teacher, I'm your basketball coach.
Right,
stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't think his performance in this movie gets talked about enough when it comes to Samuel L. Jackson. I think he gives a great performance in this. Like a lot of people know him as, from Pulp Fiction and of course as Nick Fury and things like that. But he gives a phenomenal performance in this movie as Coach Carter. The basketball scenes are all done really well. But I think more important than that, just like the story about, I want my students to go to college. Like that's what it is. It's not about winning basketball games. It's about
at the core, he wants his students to succeed.
Yeah, that's what this movie is about. Yeah. So like that aspect works just as good as it's a basketball movie. It's much more than a basketball movie. And I think it's extremely well done. It's an early Channing Tatum role as well in this movie. Man, I adore this movie, and I think where I'm going to put it once Tier Ranker Fights comes up.
Sure, it's got. Well, it's funny, and I can send you the basketball list. the list is pretty thin. I stretched it to get to 40. I had to include some straight
I
to
saw
DVD
it.
stuff
Yeah.
to get to 40 basketball movies. So it's got a real good shot of being in the S tier. I'll put it that way, because there's not a lot of competition, to be fair. So yeah, it's got a good shot. But yeah, I'm excited to rewatch it this week as part in prep for that, because yeah, I haven't sat down and watched the whole thing. But yeah, I'm very much aware of it, and I'm going to watch it. So
I
yeah,
think I think it represents the mid 2000s pretty well too. Like
sure.
So when you rewatch it, just like kind of
Mm-hmm.
remember like this is a mid 2000s movie, and I'm gonna put
Oh, of
myself in
course.
that era.
I always have to put
So
myself in
anyone,
that
yeah,
in the era of the movie. Yeah, definitely. Oh, totally. No, I had one and an honorable mention for this one. My honorable mention was The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is one of my favorite comedies of all time.
It's
Fucking
great.
great
Yeah,
movie.
it's so funny.
It holds up. I still remember the first night when I saw it. The theater I was in, it was like opening night. It was like Friday night. Was just in tears, like for half the movie, like just laughing. Like the waxing scene, we were all just like passing out laughing. It was so great.
That's commitment to a role right there,
dude. That is total commitment. It's real, and it's funny because they couldn't even script that scene. It was just like you guys just react, like you normally would, and if anything comes out, it just comes out. Which is why Romany Malco has to like leave halfway through the scene because he was legit like disgusted by it and like walked out. But yeah, like just a great cast. Rogen's great. Paul Rudd's awesome. I mean, a lot of who's who before they were famous. Mindy Kaling, Kevin Hart. A lot of people that kind of pop in and out of that movie. Jonah Hill is like in it for a minute. All kinds of people kind of before they blew up. If you haven't gone back to rewatch it, it still holds up. It's still, I think, Apatow's finest work. It's really great. So that was my honorable mention, but I went with, again, I'm a horror guy, so I lean towards the horror. I went with The Devil's Rejects, Rob Zombie movie that I just adore. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched Devil's Rejects and just put it on just because I dig the vibe of the whole thing. It's such a different movie from House of a Thousand Corpses. Like it's a total it's definitely a sequel. It's just a completely different vibe, a completely different look. Even the performances are like somewhat different. Even Bill Moseley as Otis is like completely different from what he does in House of a Thousand. The addition of William Forsythe as Sheriff Whitedale, the fact that they have like somebody to go against them, which is something the original movie is missing, is like somebody that can stand up against them, and is hunting them down for a change, is really great. He's doing a total like over the top 80s sheriff, action guy, that just thinks he's the baddest of the badass, but he's so committed to it that it's incredibly fun. Again, a great sprinkling of horror character actors, Ken Foree and oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, but he's on The Hills Have Eyes. He's on the cover. I can't remember his name. It's late too. I can't remember his name, but anyways, a bunch of people that you recognize if you're a horror fan. Just incredible acting all around, and I still think it's Rob Zombie's finest film. Like even people who aren't Rob Zombie fans recognize The Devil's Rejects. It's just a great like road revenge kind of a movie, nice throwback. So yeah, I went with The Devil's Rejects. Great movie. Even Roger Ebert liked it.
Yeah,
and he doesn't like horror movies, and he gave it big thumbs up. So yeah, if he did, it's something good.
Yeah, I think I watched this one before I watched House of a Thousand Corpses. So, and I wasn't lost. Like
you don't have to.
Follow, yeah.
You don't have to see it because the way it opens, and I'll keep this brief, but like the way it opens with the cops pulling up to the house. And you get to see inside the house, and it's just disgusting and decrepit, like something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And like there's just dead bodies all over the place. These people are just gross. Like you get exactly who those people are. Like they're monster, people that are not good people. And all these cops are coming here for a reason. Like you get the dynamic immediately. And then, and even if you haven't seen the original, the way they interact and the way Otis and Baby and Captain Spaulding and all these people, like you get what they're all about without having seen that original movie, and you can still enjoy it as just a movie that just jumps right into it, and you're totally fine. You don't have to see the first movie at all, which is why a lot of people like it too. It's just a lot of people who didn't like House of a Thousand Corpses, but like The Devil's Rejects. They're two completely different movies in the same universe. But yeah, it's a great sequel. I think it's one of the best sequels out there as far as horror movie goes. Devil's Rejects is awesome. I can't talk enough about it.
It's when Rob Zombie makes a movie that deserves to be praised, you praise it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a director that often gets praised, though, is Martin Scorsese, for good reason, because he makes movies like The Departed.
The Departed.
Which is my choice for 2006. Haven't rewatched it in a while. I need to go back to it, but every time I do watch it, I'm hooked. I think the performances in this movie from the entire cast, which is stacked, is just fantastic. And that elevator scene, like it,
yeah.
Like, okay.
All right, that's where we're going. All right, that's what we're doing. Okay, but no, yeah, another solid cast, top to bottom. Just everybody in this movie is somebody, and it's just every time you turn around, there's Mark Wahlberg, there's Alec Baldwin, there's Leo, there's Matt Damon, there's Jack Nicholson. And again, maybe the greatest late Jack Nicholson performance. Obviously, I'm glad he got something like this, out there before he kind of retired, because I consider this his retirement movie, not that Paul Rudd weird movie. It's like, no, let's go out on The Departed. It's a good one to go out on. Go out on that movie.
Not the bucket list.
Yeah, not the bucket list. No, we'll forget that movie exists. That's not my 2007 pick. Spoiler alert.
Not mine either. I think Scorsese gets the best out of Leo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think his performance.
Well, he's the new De Niro, because remember, Scorsese worked with De Niro in every other movie, in the 70s and 80s, and they had that partnership, and even the 90s. He was like the guy for a while, and he kind of switched to Leo, and it's just as good of a dynamic as it was with De Niro and Scorsese. The Leo Scorsese thing they haven't had a miss yet together. You know what I mean? They do what they do, and they do it well. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was the movie Mark Wahlberg was nominated for, right?
Out of all the people, oddly enough, Mark Wahlberg got the Oscar nod for this one. Yeah, out of everybody in this movie, it's weird though. Like, not Jack Nicholson, not Leo, not Damon, Mark Wahlberg for supporting actor. All right, sure.
So that just Martin Scorsese did that. He got Wahlberg
an Oscar nomination.
So
Academy Award nominee Mark Wahlberg.
Shout out to Alpha Dog. Alpha Dog was my honorable mention for this year.
That's one I haven't gone back to since the theaters too, and I need to. But I remember just being gut punched by the ending of that movie. Holy crap! Yeah. Like, that movie just punched me in the gut. Like when I saw it. Yeah, Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. Great. Yeah, Alpha Dog.
Yeah, and
that's a good one.
People talk about his performance in The Social Network. I think this might be Justin Timberlake's best performance. Like, he delivers, in my opinion. What's your choice for
so I went with one that's just pure fun that I can just pop on anytime, and still again, I'm a Snyder guy. You might see him a couple more times in this list. I went with 300. 300 is my pick. 300 is just so much fun, and it's just so I don't care how not true or true it is to the real story. Who cares? Because Zack Snyder just took this thing right out of a graphic novel and put it on the screen, which is what he does best, and just made it pretty and colorful. But you can't tell me when you watch this movie, when Gerard Butler turns to his troops as they're about to start fighting for the first time and goes, "This is where we fight. This is where they die," that you're just like, fuck yeah, let's go, man. Let's do this. And they back it up, and they are bad mofos in this movie. And the Spartans are just how these 300 guys are able to fend off these hordes and hordes of just mass troops, and just this, again, who cares how real it is to the story? The stuff with Xerxes being this giant 7-foot guy who thinks himself as a god, and all this stuff is great. Just wonderful imagery. Super, super fun. And I think Gerard Butler is just having an absolute blast as Leonidas, and everybody in this movie just looks like they're having a lot of fun. It's just gorgeous to look at, but absolutely tremendous action. And it's just one I could watch a lot that I could just throw my brain away and just have a great time. I'm an apologist for 300 and Zack Snyder. I love it. It's super fun.
Yeah, I need to go back. I haven't seen 300 in quite a while, so it's due
Mhm.
for a rewatch.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, you're completely right about that scene. Yeah,
Yeah, I get amped up
get
every
pumped.
time. He's like, yeah, I just get pumped, to the collapse. Like it's great. Go on. Super fun. All right, what's your number? What's your '07?
Oh
Into
seven.
'07 here.
This was the second easiest one, because
Okay.
This is Sweeney Todd. This is the year Sweeney
Okay, yeah,
Todd
of
came
course.
out.
Sweeney
Um,
Todd.
this is probably the movie I've seen the most.
Mm,
That we've talked about today. There are other movies from previous years that I've
sure.
watched a few more times, but yeah, I adore this movie. I think the music is great. Um, you get hooked from the opening song, and well, I do anyway. I do. I get
Mhm.
hooked from the opening song, and it flows so well. Like it just moves along. Like it's a 2 hour movie, but it doesn't feel like a 2 hour movie. And
Mhm.
by the time it's done, it's like, well, well, that sucks that they're dead because I want more. I want
Yeah,
more of these
yeah,
characters. I want to see more with them. Um, yeah, it's Judge Turpin is a great villain. I think Alan Rickman plays a fantastic bad guy. He's done that a few times. Um,
yeah,
it's it's a Tim Burton movie. It's got that style. It's got that tone, that dark tone to it. Um, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's perfect for me.
Sure,
It's
sure.
perfect for me.
It's a legit question. Do you think, as a horror fan, even though I'm not big on musicals, but I'm a big horror guy, do you think I would like it if I sat down and watched it?
I think you would not hate it. I
Okay,
think
like it'd be
I
passable.
Yeah, I think it would be passable. You know,
The only reason I asked is the Blu-ray is $7, so I might
oh,
worth it to plunk down $7 on it.
yeah,
I'm not making
yeah.
a huge investment.
It's
If I watch it and I don't dig it, I'm only out $7. It's not a big
right.
deal. So yeah,
I I don't think it's a movie that you would watch again, just because it does have
sure.
that. It's got that musical aspect to it. But I think like the horror elements and just kind of the way they do the kills, I think would intrigue you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, there's a horror
yeah.
movie called Repo the Genetic Opera that I do like. That is a musical, but it's like a horror musical, and it's got a guy who kills people while doing these repos of like organs and shit like that. So I would say like I can get into something like that if it has the right vibe. You know what I mean? I just
Mhm.
never. This is one of my blind spots for Burton that I just because it was a musical, I kind of skip it. But I'm willing to sit down and watch it eventually. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll do a redux where I watch Almost Famous and Sweeney Todd and a couple of these, and you watch some of the ones that I said. And maybe we'll do a
Yeah.
redux episode where we reviews all the ones we review all the ones we saw. I'm going to jot these down because I'm going to watch them. Maybe we'll do a follow up episode,
There we
in a
go.
couple
Yeah.
months or something. So I'm gonna do Almost Famous and Sweeney Todd, and then and I'm gonna
I,
rewatch Finding Neverland because that was another one I haven't seen in forever.
yeah.
So
I
I'm
need.
gonna jot these
I
down as we go.
Yeah. I need to watch Tremors. Tremors was one of the big
You're gonna
ones.
watch Tremors and
And
Speed.
Speed. Tremors and Speed. Yeah, those are the ones so
Yeah,
far.
watch Tremors and Speed and the game. And the
And the
game is the
game.
other one. Yes. We'll go back over it and we'll jot these down at the end maybe and we'll because we'll review our list at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all right, so 2007. Both my movies have the word "hot" in the title. uh, so my runner up was Hot Rod with Andy
Mm,
Samberg.
so
Hot Rod
fun.
is just
So
what a
fun.
fun sort of Billy Madison esque comedy of the 2000s. Really, really underrated if you haven't seen it. Just a goofy, crazy non sequitur comedy that just you can just have a great time with. Him playing the wannabe stuntman, it's a lot of fun. But my actual number one is Hot Fuzz from
Yep.
Edgar Wright, which is I've rewatched this movie countless times. I put it on all the time. It's just a great vibe of a movie that you can just roll with. Tons of great British character actors throughout this whole thing. But yeah, the dynamic between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost is just as fun as always in this one. Edgar Wright just could do no wrong in the 2000s between Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and the Cornetto trilogy as a whole is just one of the great trilogies also of all time, even though they're not really related per se, but they kind of are. It's still great. But yeah, Hot Fuzz is my pick. Just lots and lots of fun.
Yeah, that's not a terrible pick at all.
Yeah. We might have the same 2008. We'll see. It's very possible.
It's very possible. It's my runner-up, my honorable mention is WALL-E.
Okay.
I love WALL-E. I think it's people complain about the second half not being, but I think the second half is just as. I think the first half is like great animated filmmaking, and then I think the second half is just fun.
Yeah,
I think it ramps up the fun. But my actual choice is The Dark Knight.
We might match. Oh, we matched finally. We finally matched. Hey, of course
it took nearly 20 years.
It's 2008. Of course, it has to be The Dark Knight. Yeah, it was the movie of 2008. I mean, come on, that was the movie of that year. And yeah, I remember when I still remember going to the midnight show of that one, and completely packed house, packed theaters all over. I think they put it on like 10 or 12 different screens of that theater that night. They were just it was just electric. You could feel the atmosphere in that one. Everybody was just amped up. All the trailers leading up to it were great, and man, did it deliver. And that would have sucked if it didn't, but man, did it deliver. But holy shit, yeah, Dark Knight is an easy choice for 2008. I mean, come on, it's Dark Knight.
Yeah. Heath Ledger's Joker is still one of the greatest performances in any movie, I think.
What a hot take, Jacob, that Heath Ledger's really good in this movie. I know,
right? Who would have thought Heath Ledger as the Joker would deliver? No, it's what can we say about The Dark Knight that hasn't been said before?
We don't need to say anything. 2008 is The Dark Knight, period. There is no other. There is no. I was looking over the movies. I was like, no, there's no other answer. It's Dark Knight. That's it.
I almost went with WALL-E just because I figured you would go with The Dark Knight, but I was like, no, I have to.
No, we got to be true to ourselves. It's Dark Knight. So this will probably be the one we match on. Yeah, I figured we would match on at least one, so that had to be the one.
I thought it would be that one. I thought it would be The Truman Show.
See, but again, The Truman Show was we've matched on some of our. We kind of matched because I had them as my honorable mentions a couple of times, so we've almost matched a couple of times. But yeah, we truly did because this was my pick and this is your pick, so we matched 2008. Of course. All right, so hit me with your 2009. We're almost to the next decade.
Yeah, 2009.
We're getting there.
This one surprised even me because the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, no, this is the one I go back to. It's another. We're going back to the animation, and I'm going with Coraline.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna go. Yeah. I thought you might have gone with Up for a second because Up was 2009 as well. Yeah.
Honorable mention. That was between I had three that I was going with. It was Up in the Air, and Coraline. I ended up going with Coraline because I think it's such a unique movie. It's again because I'm a Tim Burton fan, it's got that Tim Burton style, even though it's not a Tim Burton movie. It's this creepy animated movie, and I dig it. I think just the story is unique. I think the animation style is wonderful. And I go back to it.
God, the buttons for eyes and stuff that creeps me out. Like all that stuff is creepy and weird. But yeah, you can appreciate, even as a horror fan, that movie, you can appreciate the character designs and all the weird things they do with that kind of stuff. That's one of the things I appreciate about that movie is just how just weird it is, and how unique. I mean, it's just, but in a unique way of just you've never seen anything like it. It's unlike anything you've seen, even animation wise, it was so creative for the time.
Yeah, it's one I go back to. People do their their Halloween movies, and this is one that I include on my list every October.
I can see that.
Even when it's not October, I still watch it. I think it's great. I think it's great.
All right, so for my honorable mention on this one, because I had a couple picks for this year, my honorable mention was Observe and Report with Seth Rogen, which I think is a really underrated just kind of dark comedy, just a crazy dark vigilante comedy of this mall cop, and it's nothing like
the movie Paul Blart should have been.
Yeah, no, it's nothing like people just because of the premise, like, oh, that also has Busy Mall. No, it's a very different hard R-rated crazy movie, you know, and it's a super crazy revenge fantasy movie that I adore and I go back to a lot. But it's funny you mentioned my actual pick, which is Up in the Air, with Jason Reitman, which I have watched many times, and I just dig the flow of this movie and the energy of it and the stuff. It's just such a unique premise with George Clooney being this guy who fires people, you know, for this company, you know, who's like outsourced to fire people, but he does it with a sense of dignity and respect. And they want to try to bring in this automated thing with Anna Kendrick's character, you know, to kind of take the humanity out of it. And this thing of like, no, like there's a reason how I do what I do and you know, why I do. And I just even dig just all the travel stuff, you know, where he's just like how meticulously he travels and like, this is how I do this for this. And this is how I get through this line faster. This, you know, just all that stuff is just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the writing is really great. And Anna Kendrick has never been hotter than she is in this movie. Oh my God, I'm so attracted to her in this movie. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is where I got my celebrity crush of her from this movie. And yeah, again, great side characters. Jason Bateman, you know, as his boss is good. And there's a lot of people that show up, even Zach Galifianakis and J.K. Simmons like show up for scenes here and there that are really fun. But yeah, Up in the Air. Just I still think it's Jason Reitman's best movie. I really adore it to pieces. So yeah, Up in the Air. If you haven't seen it, please. If you haven't seen it, please go watch Up in the Air. You're gonna love it.
I really enjoy Vera Farmiga in this movie too. I think she's
great too.
Talk about celebrity crushes.
Oh yeah.
2010. This was a great year for movies. I think 2010 had a lot to offer, but I ultimately ended up going with Inception, another Christopher Nolan movie, because I think it again. It's just the action in this movie is incredible. I think it's another great Leonardo DiCaprio performance. Elliot Page gives a great performance in the movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you know, just
another movie is just
chock
full of people you recognize. Yeah, just throughout it. I mean, yeah, Ken Watanabe kind of introduced the world of Tom Hardy, you know, who steals the show, you know, and really kind of makes a breakthrough. And I mean, I kind of knew him. I had seen a movie he did before this called Bronson, which is really good, where he plays one of Britain's notorious prisoner, you know, Charlie Bronson. He's really great in that movie, so I knew he was good. But yeah, he kind of steals the show here. And has a lot of fun, and you can see why he's become the actor that he's become. You know, you can see it here. He has a great charisma.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Tom Hardy's great. Yeah. Have you seen The Lock? The one where he's
where he's in the car. Yeah, where he's just in the car and then just talking to people on the phone and just creating all this crazy drama of him just driving around. Oh yeah, his life collapsing around him as he's driving around in the car. No, when we do we're going to do on Tournament Fights eventually movies that take place in one location. And Locke will be on there because it's just in his car. Him in his car.
Yeah. I think I just recently found out that one of the voices on the phone was Tom Holland. So that was fun to find out. That was a fun fact.
Right.
To learn. But yeah, that was my pick for 2010. With my honorable mention being The Social Network. I think that movie is fantastic as well, but there were a lot of choices for 2010. Like 2010 was a great year.
Well, Jacob, it's funny you mentioned The Social Network because Social Network is my pick for 2010, which is because we're all, again, there's a lot of these where we almost match. We're kind of vibing on a lot of these. Social Network. I've talked about it, has aged like fine wine. It's wonderful. It's just so well written. The score by Trent Reznor is great. And again, people who, if you haven't seen it or you haven't gone back to it, it's not just the Facebook movie, which is a lot when people was coming out. Yeah. It's just the Mark Zuckerberg Facebook. No, it's about like this friendship and this guy's life while he's succeeding. He's also losing his friends and his connections at the same time. You know what I mean? While he's embracing this new life, it's just so well paced and so well written. I've watched this movie again. I put it on in the background so many times, just vibing with it. Army Hammer is awesome as the Winklevoss twins, where it's not even, and amazing to think about it, like they're not two people. It's just him doing both performances, but it's like, it's great. Like you feel like there are two of them,
Yeah.
and it has one of my favorite lines of all time when they find out that Zuckerberg is kind of stolen their idea, and he's like, "Well, we could go beat him up. I'm 6'4" and there's two of me." Like it's really great. I was like, "That's a good point." But yeah, it's really, really it's just so well written, and I go back to it. I just dig it, and Andrew Garfield is just like. If you want to know just how good Andrew Garfield can be, like go back and watch The Social Network. He's so good, and again, like we're talking about, Justin Timberlake is perfect as the Napster guy, Sean, the Napster dude. Like he's great. So yeah, Social Network definitely 2010 for me.
Yeah. Shout out to Sweet Life of Zack and Cody's Brenda song.
Oh yeah, that's right, Brenda song. And Joseph Mazzello is in there from Jurassic Park, as was the Dustin guy from Facebook, one of Mark's roommates. Yeah.
2011, we have entered the home stretch here. 2011, this one was really tough, and even right now, as I'm looking at it, I'm making a switch.
Okay.
So my runner-up is going to be Warrior. That's going to be my honorable mention, and the one that I'm going with is Hugo.
Hugo.
I adore this movie. The movie set in the train station. I think it's wonderful. I love Ben Kingsley in this movie. Sacha Baron Cohen is fantastic as like the train security guy. Just a fun movie. And just one that I can go back to and rewatch a lot, which is what's putting it over Warrior for me at the moment. Well, I'm not saying Warrior is not rewatchable, because it definitely is.
Of course.
For me personally, I think I'm going to go back to Hugo a lot more. I kind of like the it's almost like a love letter to film, like old filmmaking in a way.
Oh no, totally. And when they do all that stuff with the moon, short film, that was one of the first films back then. All the stuff they do with that, and Ben Kingsley preserving all that stuff. It's definitely a love letter to like the earliest of Hollywood. I mean, because that's going way back to like 1909 or something like that. Something crazy. Something way back. Because there's these collections that have been put out recently. I've seen on Amazon of like the earliest of Hollywood. It's like all that trip to the moon stuff and things like that. All these like silent films, from back then. But it's definitely a love letter to like very, very early like silent Hollywood cinema. It's one I need to rewatch. I haven't gone back to it since I saw it in the theater, but I remember enjoying it. But I need to rewatch it. We're going to do, Henry and I are going to do Scorsese eventually, just ranking our own Scorsese. So I need to go back and rewatch it because I haven't gone back to it.
It's the least Scorsese.
Oh, totally. Totally.
It's wonderful. I think it shows his range as a filmmaker too, which I think is great.
Definitely. I went with a movie that sat on the shelf for a couple of years, but technically came out in 2011, and that's The Cabin in the Woods. The Cabin in the Woods is just, goddamn, does this movie kick every single time I watch it, and I just dug into every bit of behind the scenes material and how this movie was put together when it came out on Blu-ray. I've showed this movie to so many people, even like non-horror fans, and they love it. It's a movie that I, no joke, and I've told the story before, but I literally, the midnight show that we went to on Thursday night, I gave a standing ovation at the end of the movie in the theater. I did not give a shit. That movie is awesome, and that finale is awesome, and it's everything a horror fan could want. Just a complete love letter to every genre of horror, and it's just super, super fun, especially if you didn't know anything about it going into it, or if you don't know anything about it going into it. It just plays even more. Cabin in the Woods just kicks for me. It's one of my all-time favorite horror movies.
Once those final scenes kick in, like, and it ramps up,
dude,
like,
super fun.
some of the
Super
most
fun.
fun I've had watching a movie.
Let's get this party started. Boom. Yeah, let's go. Yeah,
That's a
great
great.
stuff.
That's a great pick. I need to revisit
Hmm.
that. Oh,
Yeah, technically, it was done in 2009, but it didn't come out till 2011 because of
yeah,
the weird MGM stuff, and Lionsgate finally picked it up. So, yeah, because
yeah.
Chris
Chris.
Hemsworth, well, it is funny because yeah, Chris Hemsworth when they filmed it had only done like Star Trek, and then the movie happens to come out then when it finally gets released after Thor. So that's why they heavily promoted Chris Hemsworth, in the movie at that time
Mhm.
because it was a perfect thing of like, hey, you want to see this Thor guy in a horror movie? Come watch Cabin in the Woods. So yeah.
Yeah. 2012. I'm gonna refrain from saying my honorable mention because I feel like it might be your pick.
Maybe we'll
But
see.
my choice is the Avengers.
Okay.
The
I almost
Avengers.
went with that. It was a run up. I almost went with it.
It's everything a comic book movie fan wanted. They finally seeing all these characters together on screen, and the chemistry between them all. I think shows, and it's a fun time. And I loved that they actually included a credit scene of them eating shawarma.
Hmm.
It- it- it-
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's the Avengers, easily rewatchable. I think enough has been said about the Avengers in the past that I don't need to go into it. So,
Hmm.
well,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean the Avengers is the Avengers. It was a close pick for me. My honorable mention for this was The Dark Knight Rises, which just gets better every time I watch it. I adore Tom Hardy as Bane. Like I quote him constantly in my life. You're just randomly walking around my house. I was wondering. just, Perhaps she's wondering why someone would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane. Like I'll just do random lines while I'm walking around my house. It's just great. But my actual pick is Tarantino's Django Unchained. Yeah,
yep.
is my pick. It's my favorite Tarantino movie, and yeah, I've vibed with this movie so hard, and I've watched it numerous times. Just brilliantly written, phenomenal chemistry between Christoph Waltz and Jamie Foxx, and just really great, really well paced. Super fun Tarantino movie. I think it's his best of the 2010s, like me personally. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Django Unchained.
2013. We're moving on. I'm gonna give a shout out to Snowpiercer. I think that's just such a fun,
Mm.
wild ride.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but ultimately, even though with rewatchability playing a factor, I revisit this a lot more than I thought I would, and that's Prisoners. I think
Mm.
Prisoners is fantastic. I think Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal give great performances, and that ending where Jake Gyllenhaal hears something, but you don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and off on that it's a choose your own adventure again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of think because it leaves you thinking, and I
Yeah.
love when movies do that. So Prisoners is my pick for 2013.
Gotcha. My runner-up for 2013 was This Is the End, where everybody kind of plays a version of themselves. Seth Rogen and Franco and the myriad of people that are in that movie. Fun
Yeah.
stuff with the rapture stuff, and it's really great. Yeah, This Is the End is a lot of fun. But my actual pick is one of my favorite movies of the 2010s, and it's The Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street is
Yeah,
just the most goddamn entertaining movie ever made. I would argue it's just god damn it, that movie's so much fun and so great. And again, another one you could argue is one of the least Scorsese movies, just because of how batshit crazy and bonkers it
yeah,
is. Just because it's just like this crazy anarchy debauchery party movie. It's unlike anything he's ever done, yet it still feels like it's a different type of mob movie. Just these weird Wall Street kind of mob people
yeah,
that rip people off and do this stuff, and kind of this gang of rich guys that feel like they can do anything and they own the world. So yeah, I mean, almost a different take on that. But yeah, the fact that Scorsese made this like in his 70s too was just
right.
crazy. All these like strippers running around and all these drugs and all this, all these crazy things. Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street, just god damn it, what an entertaining movie. It's just so good. So
Yeah,
good, so cool, so great. I can't get into it because I would quote it all night. Yeah, it's great.
yeah. I need to finish it. I watched half of it at like 10:30 at night, and I was like,
Oh yeah. Just watch
I
it
have to
on
be an
some
adult.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Just watch it in some afternoon and just have a blast with it. 3 hours that flies by. Like, it does not feel long at all. It's the
No.
fastest 3 hours of your life. Like, it will just go.
Yeah, because I was surprised it was midnight. I was like, oh, it's been an hour and a half already. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember we were doing, I don't know whose top 64 we were doing, but it was Wolf of Wall Street against whatever. And I liked the other movie, but it
Hmm.
was like even the first hour and a half, even the half of
Was
this
so
movie
good.
was better than
Yeah.
the whole of that movie. So yeah, no,
Damn right.
great pick. Not surprised. Moving on to 2014, I'm going to give a shout out to Whiplash, with what's his Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons. I think that movie's fantastic. But if we're going with favorites, if we're going with rewatchability and just entertaining, I'm going Kingsman: The Secret Service. Uh,
Good pick.
yeah, I think this movie is great. Taron Egerton. This was my introduction to Taron Egerton, and I've loved just about everything he's done since
Hmm.
then. And Colin Firth and that final like church scene. I believe it was
Yeah.
Colin Firth, right? I'm not mixing that up.
Oh,
I don't
Colin.
want to sound.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I maybe, but I get my British guys mixed up. Yeah.
I'm looking it up because I don't want to
I know.
misspeak. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is Colin Firth. It's
Yeah,
Colin
Colin
Firth.
Firth.
Okay.
Yeah, Taron Egerton, Sam
Yeah.
Jackson. Yeah, Mark Strong not playing a villain, surprisingly.
No. But yeah, that final church scene is just it's bonkers, and I love
Come
it, and
on,
the music
on to
accompanying it was
Freebird.
just
Come on,
yeah. Oh
Freebird.
my
Yeah.
goodness. Um, yeah, it's like that, and like the final scenes of Cabin in the Woods. Like I could just watch those alone
Yeah.
and be entertained. Yeah, like there's just something about that movie that I really enjoy it.
Dude, Matthew Vaughn had an amazing little stretch there in the 2010s with like X-Men First Class and Kick-Ass and Kingsman. Like, he was on top of the world for a couple of years
Yeah,
where like everything he put out was like a banger, and it was crazy. And he's kind of trailed off lately. I guess that depends on if you're into these other Kingsman movies or whatever, but yeah, those back-to-backs of like First Class, Kick-Ass and Kingsman. Holy shit, that's a great three out of
it
three for
really
three
is.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome. Like, Matthew Vaughn could do no wrong for a little while. So yeah, I hope he kind of gets back to prominence because he's kind of been stuck in this Kingsman thing, which I don't really think the movie needed a follow up, but that's a whole nother rant for another day. But yeah, but anyways, my honorable mention for 2014 was Gone Girl, another David Fincher movie that just blew me away in the theater. That
Mhm.
I just adored how it unravels and how it plays out. My actual pick is Nolan's Interstellar, which has
Okay.
really grown on me over the years. And I've just gone back to, I recently rewatched it when me and Henry did Nolan for our show, and fuck, that movie's great. Like, that movie's just so good. One of the best scores that Hans Zimmer has ever done. Just really haunting and really beautiful. Um, yeah, I love space sci-fi and space sci-fi. This is some of the best, and I just love how creative the movie is in different spots. Just really, really good. If you haven't gone back to watch it, I highly recommend going back to Interstellar. It's really,
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, phenomenal score.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's one that I need to rewatch. Because I don't remember loving it. I remember liking it. I don't remember loving it, but so
Hmm. It's really
maybe
grown on me over the years
yeah.
because I was like, I liked it when I saw it, and then I rewatched it several more times when it came out on Blu-ray, and like, that movie just grows on me like more and more and more every time I watch it. It's really great.
Moving on to 2015, I'm gonna go with Straight Outta Compton. I'm a sucker for a good
Mm.
biopic, and I think this one, um, even though it's nearly 2.5 hours, doesn't
The
feel two and a
extended
half
cut is
hours.
almost 3 hours. There's an
Yeah,
extended cut of it that's
yeah.
even longer. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Yeah, no, I was a big fan of rap music growing up. Still am. And so kind of seeing where the group came from,
Hmm.
and seeing Ice Cube's son play Ice Cube.
Dude, Ice
Like,
Cube's own son playing Ice Cube, how perfect is that? And the fact that he kind of looks like him and he's got that same attitude, like it's great. Like, I mean, how perfect could you get? Like, I'm sure, even if he didn't have a kid, they could have found somebody to play Ice Cube, but the fact that it actually is his kid playing him in a biopic, that's just so cool. It's just cool. And then, and I forget the actor's name who plays Eazy-E, but he looks exactly like him too. Like, holy crap. Like he was great too. I forget. I'm blanking on his name. He was, but yeah, like, he's great. Cause I'm a big Eazy-E fan. Real Motherfucking Jesus is one of my favorite rap songs of all time. But yeah,
Jason Mitchell. His name
Jason Mitchell is awesome. Yeah, he's in a movie I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I was blanking on his name for a second. But yeah, he's great as Eazy-E. He kind of steals the show overall from O'Shea. He's good. And Straight Outta Compton's a good pick. I always forget about that, but like that movie's a killer, man. It's really good.
Yeah. And I will say this: I think Paul Giamatti is like the greatest actor when it comes to giving supporting performances. Like, if you need a solid,
he might be the best. Like, he might be the best supporting character actor there's ever been. Him and it's a close pick between him and like Joe Pantoliano, maybe. Okay. Joey Pants is like pretty close too. Like, he always brings it too. I mean, like, as far as it's just being a standout. Yeah, that's a good pick. Good pick. My runner-up for 2015 was Sicario from Villeneuve. Is great. Sicario is just a banger all around, and I love drug cartel movies. And Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro and Emily Blunt are all just top-notch in this movie. Just killers, like phenomenal stuff. Brilliantly shot too. But my actual one is back to Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. And The Hateful Eight, I've gone back and watched probably 50 times. I just dig the vibe of this movie, hanging out with these characters for 3 hours. It just flies by for me, and just all the dialogue is just crisp and good, and just phenomenal. It's a great character-based movie that I just want to be with these characters and hang out at Minnie's haberdashery with everybody and have fun. Love The Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight and Django Unchained switch places from 1 to 2 constantly in my Tarantino list, depending on what mood I'm in. So yeah, Hateful Eight is where it's at for me for 2015.
That's being added to the list because I have not seen this yet.
Oh, add it to the list. We got to talk Hateful Eight. Yeah, watch it.
I am adding it to the list.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
It's there.
Yeah.
2016. I don't know if you want to hear me talk about this movie again. It's Captain America: Civil War.
Oh, we'll just name all the characters and then we'll move on.
I seem to remember that debate going a lot differently, but yeah, no.
That's what I took from that. That's what I took from the debate, because that's what the judges said. Oh, he meant.
I know.
He talks about how Black Panther's in the movie. I'll give it the points to Jacob.
Right.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Did you actually listen to them? Because that's not what I didn't just name them. But anyway.
No, that's what the judges took from it. That was my point. That's why they gave you the point. They named more characters from the movie. Great. Excellent.
I wouldn't even give myself the point if that's all I did.
And apparently they dinged me for mentioning a great scene at the very end of Rogue One that has a lightsaber, even though 99% of the movie does not have lightsabers and Jedis and Sith in it. And the one scene, I get dinged because I mentioned the one awesome scene that does have a lightsaber in it. Great. I guess that hurts my argument. Fucking stupid. Anyways, don't get me on a rant.
You never know what the judges in Battleground are going to do.
I know. But, anyways.
Yeah. Civil War, I dug this movie from the first time I saw it. It's been my favorite MCU movie since I've seen it. I think the airport scene obviously is incredible, but the more I rewatch it, that final fight between Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man, like, oh man, I think that is just such a great scene. And then the way he leaves his shield, like, yeah, it's like it really left me wondering, like, what's gonna happen next. And it got me excited for what was to come. So, yeah, that's my pick. Shout out to Sing Street was my honorable mention. I really dig that. I think it's a unique musical because, like, the musical numbers are actually them performing. It's not just choreographed dance scenes.
Right, so. Like we're talking and now we're singing. Kind of a thing. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. I went with a movie that I probably should have gone with in that background match. The more I think about it, I went with Batman v Superman, which
Oh,
I'm a big fan of, especially the Ultimate Edition.
yes.
I just think that movie is fucking cinematic gold, man. Like, I'm a defender of it. I think it's great. I think there's a lot going on in that movie that people just don't give enough credit to. For, I mean, I don't want to sit here and talk for 20 minutes about why I think Batman v Superman is great. I think the people who love it, and people who don't, that's fine. But I think there's a lot going on. That movie is just gorgeous. Like, every shot is like a poster shot in that movie. It's just so beautifully done. I think there's just such great stuff. Obviously, phenomenal action set pieces. I mean, who doesn't love even if you hate that movie, you can't hate the Batman warehouse fight. I mean, you can't.
Oh
That's
no,
one of the great
no.
like Batman fight scenes of all time. Like, even people who hate that movie go, yeah, but goddamn, that Batman scene is pretty damn good. Like, he does whoop some ass in that scene. It's pretty great. But yeah, like, I even love all the stuff with the Doomsday fighting and everything, and it's all just a lot of fun. The back and forth with Batman and Superman is great. Yeah, I could go on and on about BVS. I won't. I'll just keep it short. But I love BVS, and it gets better every time I watch it.
Oh
I
yeah,
love BVS.
yeah. Okay. Great introduction to Wonder Woman too, in the
Yeah, and
whatever.
oh man, that theme is so good that Hans Zimmer came up, dun, 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 dun.
Mhm.
Like, I bob my head every time. I'm just like, yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
2017 for me apparently was the year of Hugh Jackman, because my honorable mention is going to be The Greatest Showman, because I just
Mm,
I love it. I love that movie because it's just fun. Um,
mm,
but the movie that I went with was Logan. Uh,
mm.
I think Hugh Jackman's performance, Patrick Stewart's performance, Daphne Keane, the action in this movie is incredible. If you haven't watched the black and white version, I would recommend it. I think it looks
Yeah,
really
I have
good
it on
in black
Blu-ray.
and white.
It's really good. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's one that I've rewatched a lot since it came out just 5 years ago. I think it's wonderful. I think it's the best Wolverine movie, best like X-Men character, even including the X-Men movies that we're gonna get. So
Mm.
that's my pick. I
Yeah,
love
it's a
it.
good pick. I went with kind of an unconventional one, but one that just I think is super entertaining, and I love what they did with it. That's Kong Skull Island. Was my
Oh yeah,
favorite of
great pick.
2017.
Great
Holy
pick.
shit, Kong Skull Island is like ridiculously entertaining. It just knocked my socks off when I saw it. I just loved the fact that it's a King Kong movie that like pretty much fully takes place on Skull Island, because some of these movies, so many of these King Kong movies, they take forever to get there, and then we're there for a little bit, and then we just kind of leave. But I love the creativity that they do with the creatures of there. You've got these like woolly mammoth creatures and these like stick lizard things, and you got the bamboo spider, and then like octopus monsters, and like all kinds of crazy stuff going on in that. A movie with another bunch of Marvel people in it. You got Tom
Yeah.
Hiddleston and Sam Jackson and Brie Larson and John C. Reilly, who's been in a Marvel movie, and the other guy Toby Kebbell, who was in that Fan Four Stick. All kinds of people throughout that movie. But I dig the era, the '70s vibe of it. The fact that it's like kind of a Vietnam sort of movie.
Mhm.
All that kind of stuff. I think Sam Jackson's actually really good in this movie. His vendetta against Kong that develops throughout the movie is
Yeah.
pretty fun to watch. And Tom Hiddleston's badass. And I just think this movie just kicks. It's just a really fun, like, just fun creature monster movie thing. And John C. Reilly just steals the show, like when he
He
shows
really
up, and he's
does.
actually legitimately really good, and he's a lot of fun. I just think the movie's fun, man. This movie's just a really fucking
Yeah.
fun movie. Kong Skull Island is great. If you haven't gone back to watch it, like, Kong Skull Island is super just fun from start to finish. I just really dig it. So
It
yeah.
really is. Yeah. It might be my favorite of the like Godzilla Kong
The new
series.
kaiju verse, yeah, the
Yeah.
kaiju
Yeah.
monster verse, yeah. There's a good argument to be made. It might be mine as well. Like, when I sit down, even though I'm a giant Godzilla fan, but like, as far as the most entertaining out of all these movies, start to finish, I probably have to go with Skull Island. I think it's really good.
2018, I'm going to pick a movie that gave Austin a headache. I'm going to go Into the Spider-Verse. um,
It's only physically, not that I don't like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
movie. It
Right.
just physically gave me a migraine in the theater. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie was just such a surprise. I love the animation style. I loved all the spider people and non-spider people on screen. The story
Mhm.
was fun. It was easy to follow along, and yeah, I feel like we talked about Into the Spider-Verse enough on our Spider-Man show. Go watch that one
Sure,
instead if you
sure.
want to hear our thoughts.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
That's a good
want to
pick.
give a shout out to Blind Spotting. I absolutely love that movie. It was a really hard choice here. I almost went with it. I think
We talked about it a lot on it was on Henry's 64 thing, and I watched it for that tournament because I hadn't seen it, and so I just watched it this past week. Actually, I just watched Blind Spotting.
okay.
Not that it's going to creep into my 64 anytime soon, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really entertaining. The chemistry between the two lead actors is really really good.
Yeah.
I love the sound. The soundtrack was great. Yeah, it was a fun movie. Like I
Yeah.
definitely dug it. Yeah.
On my overall list, Spider Verse and Blind Spotting are like 5 spots apart from each other. Like it was
I
that
tell you what,
close.
for our Redux episode, I'm gonna jot it down. I'm gonna rewatch Spider Verse. So yeah,
Okay.
and on my, well, I still have a 75-inch TV, but at least it'll be like a home theater experience. So hopefully
Yeah.
it won't give me a headache. We'll see. All right. 2018, I went with the other superhero movie. I went with Infinity War. Infinity War is
Mhm.
my favorite of the two between that and Endgame. I think the Thanos stuff is just top notch. Josh Brolin is he's just dynamite in that movie, and I kind of I dig movies with kind of dark endings, so that's why I kind of like Infinity War, down vibes. But I also legitimately think it has some of the best action sequences. All the stuff at Wakanda at the end is great. All the fight, with Iron Man and Doctor Strange fighting, dude in New York, is fun. All the stuff on that moon planet, where they're fighting Thanos. The Doctor Strange is
Mhm.
fighting them, and the Guardians and Iron Man and Spider Man all going at it. All that stuff is really really great and really really fun. I think everybody kind of gets a moment to shine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just Infinity War. I thought they just nailed it, like especially for the first half, kicking off that finale. So I thought it was great.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Thor entering Wakanda might be like one of my
It's one of the
favorite
best
moments.
moments
Yeah.
ever. Bring me Thanos, and everybody just like, oh, you guys are gonna fucking get it now. Like it's just it's one of the most badass like Thor moments, which is why I don't like Ragnarok. It's just I just like if, at least Infinity War made him a badass again. Like, he's taking the brunt of a star. He's doing his thing. He's a bad mofo, and then they turn him into Fat Thor, and I'm just like, oh no,
Yeah.
no. Like that's just again. Well, that's a whole another rant for another episode, but whatever. It is what it is.
Well, maybe I shouldn't tell you what my pick for 2019 is then.
Well, I can see what's coming, but I picked a different comic book movie. We'll get into that, but you can pick an Endgame. That's fine. No, I know you love
Yeah,
Endgame.
I do. I love it, and that's why it's actually my honorable mention. It's actually just my
Oh, okay.
honorable mention for 2019. My pick for 2019 is Parasite. I loved this movie. I
Mm,
thought it was great. It might be like my favorite foreign film. I thought it
mm.
was that great. And like I think when it shifts and
Oh
once you
yeah,
find
into
out like
bonkers mode. Into
yeah,
bonkers
like
mode.
oh my
Yeah, yeah.
goodness, like I
Right,
think
right.
it deserved all the accolades it got, like easily.
Well, I'm glad it didn't get spoiled for me. The only thing I heard was that it takes a crazy turn like halfway through. That's
Mhm.
all they said. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I was just waiting for it to take the turn. I just didn't know where it was going to go. But
right.
yeah, I still won't even spoil it because people still need to, if they haven't seen this movie, go see Parasite. But yeah, once it takes that turn, I won't say what it is. You'll know it when it happens. Once it
Mhm.
takes that turn, yeah, the movie just
Yep.
gets even crazier and fun. So yeah, Parasite's a good pick. It deserved all the accolades it got. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really really good. Yeah, good stuff. I went with Joker, which I saw 3 times in the theater. I just adore Joker. I like the kind of Scorsese vibe it's putting off. I know it gets compared to Taxi Driver, but like, so what? It's in kind of an homage to Taxi Driver. Just take it done in a comic book form. And Joaquin Phoenix is goddamn, who knew you could again take this character and take it in a whole nother different direction? That's why the Joker character is so great, because you can go in so many different directions with it and so many interpretations. But yeah, Joker. I think that the shot and the scene where he after he gets hit in the cop car and slowly gets up, with the score kind of kick in and does the whole like smile with the blood, and he's doing the little dance on top of the car. I think it's one of those beautifully shot sequences of that whole year. I think it's just gorgeous to look at, and that scene is just it's just the whole thing is like, man, I popped my 4K on when I got the 4K, and I was like, holy shit, this movie looks great. Like, it's just beautifully shot. Who knew the Hangover guy,
Right? Yeah.
Todd Phillips, the guy, and especially the guy who did the Hangover sequels, Todd Phillips, because the Hangover is great, but like the Hangover sequels, God,
Yeah.
well, okay, but that guy did Joker, yeah, really, really good. So I dig it.
No.
I dig it.
Well,
All right, we're in the home stretch here.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sorry,
would
go ahead.
say Joaquin Phoenix knows how to act. I don't think he knows how to give an Oscar acceptance speech, though. I think he needs to work
No,
on that.
he's a weird dude. He's a weird dude, but I knew that was coming. I knew, I was like, he's gonna win, and the inspection speech is gonna be weird because he's a weird dude, and he did not disappoint. And he started talking about like cow flatulence and like weird shit. I was like, what do you do? What are you doing? Like, just thank the director, thank your fans, thank your acting coach. I don't care, something, and just get off. Just leave.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's go.
2020 was kind of a weird year.
You think?
Lots of stuff pushed back.
Yeah.
But so I want to give a shout out to The Trial of the Chicago 7. I think that movie is wonderfully acted. I think the script is fantastic. Again, it's another Sacha Baron Cohen performance that really stands out to me. But the pick I'm going with is the animated movie Soul. I loved that movie. I think Jamie Foxx gives a great voice performance, and I think it's really a good message about finding what drives you. Like for him, it was music, and he would do anything to pursue that. And it's just a good message about following your dreams and that don't give up attitude. I think that Pixar does well. Again, like Pixar does emotion so good, and I think they do it. Like I remember I watched this. I believe it was Christmas Day that it came out on Disney Plus, and like I almost stayed up till midnight to watch it. I was that excited for this movie, but I didn't. I watched it in the morning, and like it did not disappoint. It stuck with me for a while, and I think it's a special movie. I love it. I really do.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen it because again, I haven't sat down and watched a lot of animated movies the last couple of years, but
Right.
just because I've just kind of given up. But it's too much Pixar. Pixar used to be like an event thing, and it seems like they got like 2 or 3 movies coming out every year now. I feel like they've kind of lost that spark as far as like being like something really special. I know they're still putting out good stuff, but it's like I remember when it'd be like, oh, the new Pixar movie is coming out, and it used to be like a thing, and maybe the Cars movies kind of killed that. I don't know, a long time ago. It's very possible, but it is what it is. But I'll put it on the list. I'll put it on the list for our we'll do we need to do a follow-up Redux episode where we come back to our blast from this one. I think that would be a fun thing because we'll each have 5 or 6 of them that we can come back to and talk about. So I'll put it on the list and I'll watch it for that. For 2020, I went with a surprising one that got a lot of word of mouth that I've actually seen like 3 times now. It's a movie called Greenland. I don't know if you've seen it.
Haven't seen it yet. I'll add it to the list.
With Gerard Butler. It's kind of a disaster movie, but it's like a more low-key personal story disaster movie, where it's not really focused on cities blowing up and stuff. Like you get some of that stuff, but like, it's more about this story of this family because it's Gerard Butler and I forget her name, but she was Vanessa in Deadpool in the Deadpool movies. Is his wife. Yeah, but it's her. I forget the actress's name, but she's in there. And but anyways, so it's them and their kid, and they get picked. There's basically an asteroid coming to hit Earth, and it's like coming like a week, and and nobody really knows about it, but there's like a random lottery that gets sent out for people to go to like this shelter in Greenland that's like made for this, like a total doomsday like shelter kind of thing. And their family gets picked, and they have to like make their way to this like military base and get all these military jets. And of course, things go wrong while they're trying to get there, and they're trying to make it to this place, basically before the asteroid gets there, and things kind of go awry. And so you get like some disaster stuff, but it's more this personal story of them just trying to stick together and make it, to this thing and survive. But it's really, really good. It's a nice grounded disaster story. Again, focused on this family, and it's really, really strong. Like it got this like word of mouth stuff, and it kind of came out, and it got some buzz, and then kind of got some more buzz once it came out on home, home video and digital and all that. But I highly recommend it. Greenland's great, and it's really, really good. And Gerard's great, and then I forget his name, Scott something. He was a character actor like in like Home for Red October and stuff like that.
Scott Glenn.
Scott Glenn, yeah. Scott Glenn shows up as Gerard Butler's, Vanessa's dad later in the movie, and he's great. So it was good to see him. But a couple of people pop up here and there. But yeah, great stuff. Greenland, good, really, really good movie. Kind of surprising. Again, 2020 wasn't a big year for movies because everything kind of went crazy. But that was one of the nice gems that I've gone back to a couple of times.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I just haven't haven't gotten around to seeing it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the final year.
Last year.
Yeah, and for me, shout out to Coda.
Greenland's on HBO Max, by the way. So
okay, cool, easy.
Hey, cool.
There you go. Yeah, so 2021. Shout out to Coda. I absolutely loved that movie. And had I seen it, more than the movie I am going to pick, it might be number one because I love it that much. But the one I'm going to pick is Spider-Man: No Way Home. It's an easy pick for me. I won't go into it because we did a whole show about it. But yeah, once Willem Dafoe turns like that, that might be like my favorite like last half of a movie like ever. I loved it that much. The emotion in that second half, man, it got me. I love this movie. If you want to hear my thoughts about it, go watch our spoiler episode about it, and you can hear me gush about it some more.
All right. Sounds good. I went with the other superhero movie that came out that year, just not theatrically. Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm a Snyder guy, and Zack Snyder's Justice League was everything I wanted it to be. It was 4 hours of just pure greatness, and I watched it in one sitting. I loved it. I've watched it 3 or 4 times since then. Just perfect. Like I just everybody gets their chance to shine. All the characters are just way more well developed. All the stuff that was added back in with like the flashback stuff with like the other mythical characters fighting Darkseid, like Hercules and Zeus and all these crazy guys, and the Lantern Corps and all the Atlanteans, like all that stuff is great. Again, just every character just gets way more expanded, and you feel like it's a more complete story. Just overall than that hack job they did with the theatrical release of it, from 2017, which is just a mess. And you just feel like it's way better developed. And you can't watch this movie and not want to follow up at the end, even if you're not really like a big fan of Zack Snyder. Like you watch that movie and you're like, okay, I want the sequel with Darkseid and like them fighting Darkseid and continuing this universe and like into that crazy apocalyptic future. Like who wouldn't want that? All that stuff is so cool. Just beautiful to look at. I'm so glad that Snyder got a chance to like put this together and make it a complete version. And I think it surprised a lot of people, even people that aren't really into those movies. A lot of people I think dug it. Like I saw a lot of praise for it, even with people who aren't necessarily big fans of it, because it's really well done. Mine is Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder cut. I'm a Snyder guy. What can I say?
It's actually risen up my 2021 list. I had it like outside my top 10, but the more I thought about it, like it's currently at number 6 for 2021. Like it's okay. It is really good. Yeah, it's an easy 4-hour watch. Easy 4 hour
it's
watch.
Easy. Yeah, it breezed by for me. Again, it was on home viewing, so you can take breaks, do whatever you got to do.
Mhm.
But boy, would I have loved to see this on a big screen, like on
Oh
an IMAX
yeah.
screen. Man, I would have loved it. But it is what it is. Maybe someday, some theater will show it or something. Who knows? At some point. But why don't we quickly go over our Redux list of stuff we're going to watch for a future episode? Because we should do that. So
We
I
should,
think for
yeah.
mine, from what I jotted down, I will finally get around to Almost Famous. I will watch Sweeney Todd. I will rewatch Finding Neverland and Hugo. And then I will give Spider-Verse another watch, and then I'll watch Soul. I think those will be my 6 that I'll
Okay.
maybe do for that episode. So yours, I
Yeah,
believe,
I'm gonna
was
go Tremors, the game, and Speed are ones
for the
that
90s.
and
Yeah.
then I think I need to give a rewatch to 300. I think it's been way too long, so I'll give a rewatch to that.
Have you
And
seen
then
Frailty?
would you recommend
Okay.
Frailty or 300?
Frailty. Go
Okay.
rewatch Frailty. I think if you saw 300 once, you probably got everything you need to see out of 300. Like,
Okay.
not that it doesn't play, but like, I would rather hear your thoughts on Frailty.
Okay,
It's a
so
deep
I'll add that. And then Hateful Eight is one that I haven't seen, and Greenland I
Yeah.
need to watch. So
Greenland.
those are
Nice. So there's your 6. Yeah, we should do a 6. A couple of rewatches and a couple of fresh watches. So
yeah.
for each of us, that'd be good. Sounds good. And we'll do a coming back to Redux episode where we'll fill in some gaps and talk about those movies, and that'll be fun because we can bounce back and forth on those watches and talk about those movies a little bit more. So that'll be fun. Yeah. So I'll have to save this list in my note app and not delete it like I do on some of these. Make sure I save it and we'll have it at the bottom of it. But yeah, it's been a longer episode than we usually do, but it's a fun one. I like this topic a lot. It allowed us to kind of touch on a lot of different movies and kind of see where everybody's coming from. We had some crossovers here and there with our picks and honorable mentions, so that's cool. But also had some very different picks, for different years. So that's cool too.
Yeah. And some surprising picks. Some of that I didn't expect from you. Like not. I mean, I know you're a horror guy, but the Devil's
like Final
Rejects.
Destination,
Yeah,
or like Devil's Rejects,
yeah. Like I wasn't expecting those two. Like, what?
Yeah.
But looking, I'm like, yeah, no, they are great. They are fun. It doesn't necessarily have to be the highest of quality to be a favorite.
Well, no, and 1996, I picked like Twister. You know what I mean? Just because I fucking love Twister. And like, is it the highest quality movie of 19? Of course not. Is Speed greater than Shawshank, Forrest Gump, and Pulp Fiction from that same year? Probably not. But like, is it the movie I would probably watch over those like right now? Probably, just for fun factor. It's one of those things. Yeah, like I have. Those movies that don't get me wrong, I love to pieces, but it's like, man, these are the movies that I could just go back to again and again and again and just enjoy endlessly. That's what I went with. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it was a fun list. We talked about 60 plus movies.
Yeah,
it's been a long episode, but it's been a good one. Make sure you guys check Austin out at all the things he's doing. Let's Rank stuff with Henry Confidential.
Yeah, this upcoming episode we're going to be doing Fincher movies. So what we're kind of doing is we're kind of bouncing between like franchises sort of thing and like directors or filmographies. So yeah, the next one we're doing is going to be David Fincher films. So our ranking of those, which there's a lot of movies, so our rankings again could be wildly different, which is what it's been recently. Is me and Henry's rankings are not the same usually, like at all. Like sometimes we meet in the middle on a lot of stuff, but like our usually our top and the bottoms are like wildly different. So that's just fun. So we're doing Fincher, and the week after we're going to do, like I said, AVP, so Alien versus Predator. So literally all the Alien and Predator universe films in one big list. So that'll be fun, kind of throwing both of those together to see where, because that could throw the rankings all over the place with those two being together. So that's what's going to be fun about that. So yeah, we do a lot of good topics. We've done Nolan, we've done Tarantino, we've done Saw, Rambo, all kinds of fun stuff. So check it out. It's a little bit something very Let's Rank stuff over on Henry Confidential's channel. All right.
Yes, you can check both of us out over on the Movie Hero channel. We're both on. He's on there every time. I'm on there quite a bit.
Jacob's on there a lot. Yeah, you'll be on the basketball episode coming up next week. So that'll be tier ranking basketball movies. And again, that it's a fun list, but I had to kind of stretch to. Usually we don't include like DVD or documentaries and things like that, but I kind of did just to kind of stretch the list out because really theatrical basketball films there was only like 30. We try to have, at least have like 40 or 50. So I stretched to include like Slam Dunk Ernest, which is straight to video, but why not? I included
why not?
well, I included like Hoop Dreams because it's one of the more famous, basketball movies. Even though it's a documentary, it's probably one of the more famous, documentaries of all time, critically acclaimed and stuff. And it did have a theatrical release, so it counts. But yeah, like stuff like that, I kind of stretched it out. But let's just say, I'm big on White Men Can't Jump. And that one's probably going to be a pretty easy S tier. I'm excited to talk about that. But I also, just to tease, I try to watch the worst movie, or what I think will be the worst movie on the episode on each list. So this week, I have not watched it yet. I have the DVD over there. It's not Air Bud, because Air Bud's I predict will be much greater than this movie. I'm going to watch the movie Crossover, which has like a 2% tomatoes with like Wayne Brady and Anthony Mackie, which I've heard nothing but devastating things about. What'd you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say Thunderstruck, the one with Kevin Durant.
Oh, I think it's on the list, but I haven't seen that. No. But I'm going with Crossover because that swept the Razzies that year, all kinds of stuff, like one of those movies. So I have the DVD over there. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, it's not good.
Again, what I do for Tier Ranker is I take the hit. I watched Ed. I watched Air Bud Golden Receiver. You know what I mean? Especially these sports movies. I try to watch the worst one. Whenever we put the winter sports thing, I'll try to watch the worst one on that one. So, combat sports, I guess it'll be, I've seen the worst ones of those. I've seen No Holds Barred. I've seen Ready to Rumble. I've seen, I've seen Here Comes the Boom. I've seen, all that kind of stuff. But all the bad Van Damme movies, I've seen those movies. But so I'll have to find a gem in there somewhere. But yeah, but it'll be fun. But Crossover should be interesting.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. So check us out over there. Check us out right here, a podcast about movies. Check out a podcast about wrestling. We finally dropped the first episode of that.
Yay!
And we will be dropping another episode that will be uploaded shortly after this one. So look out for that.
Cool.
And in the meantime, keep talking about movies.